Hello. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, and this is a Silicon Dojo where we try to create authorityless, gatekeeperless, free to the end user technology education to empower you to do whatever the hell it is that you want to do with technology. Now do remember that this is free to the end user. That doesn't mean it's free. Things actually cost money in order to be able to create this type of content. So if you are able or willing to support this type of content financially, think about clicking on the link down below or wherever it is on whatever page that you're looking for and throw in a couple of dollars into our crowdfunding campaign currently on DonorBox. So anyways, the class that we're going to be doing today is how to start a technology business. I think this is a valuable thing to talk about because as with many things in the technology world, people think that starting a technology business is, half magic or something like that. Ooh, like you have to be a certain type of person to start a tech business, or I don't know, you have to be given the right sword or something when you're 3 years old, or have a scar on your head or something like that, right? And the reality is starting a technology business is just like every other skill in technology. It takes a lot of work. Most of the time it really sucks. Sometimes you make outsized profits or whatever else and you're really happy with yourself. But basically it's just like, it's a skill like any other skill. If you're going to be installing operating systems on servers, that's a skill. If you're going to be creating Active Directory infrastructure, that's a skill. If you're going to be, creating Heroku or whatever and data lakes or something like that, that's a skill. Starting a technology business, it's just another skill within the world of being a technology professional. Now, just so everybody out there knows, this will be the last of this type of class that I am going to be doing if you're watching this chronologically. So it's August of 2021 right now, and I had an idea. I had a dream of what I wanted Silicon Dojo to be. I wanted Silicon Dojo to be a hands-on, in-person technology experience. And I've been doing this latest series of videos, however many it's been at this point, 10 of these videos. And basically I've been doing these videos as an afterthought to the education that I was doing here at Silicon Dojo. So basically I would do the class at Silicon Dojo, and then afterwards, for a little bit of revenue, for some advertising, whatever else, I would basically record the exact same presentation a day later. And so my real focus was turning this into an amazing hands-on physical in-person experience. And yeah, it's August 2021, and apparently we have not won the war against COVID. Yeah, July 4th. I was told by somebody, I don't know who, July 4th, we were celebrating our independence from COVID. It's now like August, whatever the hell it is, 23rd. And here, at least in Asheville, we've gone back to mask mandates. So you've got to wear a mask in any indoor facility, not just bars or restaurants, office spaces, any place where the public is allowed to enter, you have to wear a mask. Problem for me is doing that is that just shreds my vocal cords. If I have to talk through a mask for 2 hours, this isn't about science. It's not about fake news or whatever else. It just shreds my vocal cords, so I can't do that. And so that was becoming a problem for me to continue to do the seminars to an in-person crowd. And then beyond that, I think we're losing the war. Again, as a business person, you have to take what you are given. You have to take what the professionals are telling you and then come to your own decisions. And when I look at the science, when I look at the maps, when I look at a lot of the other things that are going on, I think it's going to get worse. I think lockdowns are coming back. I know you're not supposed to say that. I think lockdowns are coming back. I think masks are the first thing that are coming. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm kind of reverting Silicon Dojo right now to basically being an online experience. So right now, for the next number of months, until I believe the politicians have figured out what the hell to do about COVID one way or the other, we're going back to a much more online experience. And so doing that, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually creating entire curriculums of classes. So the first curriculum will actually be on cybersecurity. I've already come up with 15 individual classes on cybersecurity. So what I'll do is I'll I'll video all of those classes, and then that will become like a cybersecurity block. And then beyond that, most likely we're going to be using Zoom, and I'm going to start doing the consultations, essentially like office hours. I'm actually going to be doing that on Zoom, and then anybody around the world can participate in that. And so this is the last vestige of this way of Silicon Dojo doing things, because in the real world, that's the whole thing. Like just for business people out there, for people that aren't business people or people who aren't decision makers, you have to understand, like right now, a lot of people like to scream about politics. I like to scream about politics. I like to scream about this, that, or the other thing. An important thing to understand as a decision maker is whatever my views of politics are, whatever my views or the hubbub is, the reality is I have to do business within this environment. However I may feel about the mask mandates, at least here in Asheville, the mask mandates are real. And so then you have to make the decision based off of the reality that you're dealing with. It's not about being a wantrepreneur. A wantrepreneur is a snarky term for those people that talk about what they'll do. Oh, when I create a business, what I'm gonna do is... It's like, yeah, come back. Come back after you've had employees for a couple of years and tell me all that pie in the sky crap, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, again, they go out there and they scream about, what they would do or what other people should do, blah, blah, blah. The reality at the end of the day, for the actual decision makers, we have to look at what we're presented and we have to make a call. Is it the right call? Who knows? Is it the wrong call? Who knows? You just got to make a call. You make a call, and a couple of years from now, you'll find out whether it's the right one or the wrong one. So anywho, just so you all know what's going on with that. Oh, I don't have a table for this. Hold on. I need a table for my water bottle. I'm still getting used to this. I got this new office space. It's a 600 square foot office space. I have room for people to come in. I have a server room. I have a supply closet with computers and monitors and things in there. I have places for tables and desks and the parts bin. I have all that. I literally rented this 2 weeks ago. I rented this 2 weeks ago because we were told the mask mandates had gone away and it was blue skies from here. We were told we were free from the tyranny of COVID. That's what the politicians told us. So I did that 2 weeks ago. And then I moved in. I got everything set up. I was scheduling for what I was planning to do. And then the politicians went, well, psych. And so I'm still getting used to this place because it's so new. I rented this much larger space so I could do in-person events. And then 1 week later, the politicians got involved. So anywho. No, enough complaining. This is the real world. So how to start a technology business. So let's say you like repairing computers. Let's say you like building websites. Let's say you like installing surveillance systems. You want to create the next Facebook or whatever else. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things that are involved in this particular class. Again, I'm going to give you the brass tacks. I'm going to explain it to you, taking off all the shine and all the cool stuff. So hopefully you have a reasonable idea and what you should do if you're going to be starting a tech business. Now, one of the things is I am going to be talking about starting a technology business today. I'm not going to be talking about starting a startup. So these are two entirely different things. A founder is different than an entrepreneur. Not going to get snarky. I can, though. I can get so snarky. Anyways, not going to get snarky on this today. But basically, a business and a startup are fundamentally different creatures. They seem like the same thing on the face of it, but when you think about what the end game result is, what an entrepreneur is going for and what a founder is going for are entirely different things. And so when you're going to be spinning up a startup company, there are different rules and there are different ways for doing that than if you're going to be starting up a tech business. Again, if you're going to be starting up a tech business, don't worry so much about, what all those startup people out there are doing, because they are literally playing an entirely different game. Now, the important thing to understand when we start talking about a business versus a startup is a business. The goal of the business is to create a profit. You are going to be earning your millions and millions and gazillions of dollars off of shipping product. You ship a product, every product you ship, you earn $1. You ship a gazillion product, you earn a gazillion dollar, right? You are making profit off of the product or the service that you are providing to your customers. That is the point of a business. Now, to be clear, you may decide to retire, somebody may come in and they may offer you a crap ton of money for your company, and you go, oh, wait a minute. You're gonna give me that much money and I can just go home, right? Now, like there are reasons you may walk away from your company. You might end up selling your company, but that is not the goal. There is no exit strategy for a business. Again, when you take a look at Silicon Dojo, there is no exit strategy for this. And again, I'm not telling you whether this is right or wrong. This is just how the business works, right? You create a business. The idea is that the profit from providing goods or services, that is going to be what makes you money, and that is what a business is. A startup is much different, though. It's much different. The point of a startup is for the founder and all those initial employees to make the majority of their money off of what is called the exit event, right? As a business person, you are selling a product or service. As a startup founder, you're selling your entire darn company, right? When startup companies are talking about selling, like think about the words that startups use, right? When they talk about money, they talk about selling equity. Right, what is equity? Equity is a share of the company. They are making money by chopping off bits of the company and selling that to investors. Again, when they make their gazillions of dollars, they don't make their gazillions of dollars by the ads or whatever on their platforms and then, getting all that money, onesie twosies, here's a penny, here's $1, whatever else. They get it from the exit event. When a company like Facebook, when it IPOs, initial public offering, where all the money for Mark Zuckerberg comes from is not from the ad revenue on Facebook. All that money comes from the investors. All these people want a chunk of Facebook. They want to own however many shares of Facebook. All of a sudden they're bidding it up and a share of Facebook is now worth $300. Mark Zuckerberg did not make all of his money actually selling ads. He made all of his money selling equity in the company, selling ads. And so the important thing to understand here is when you're dealing with a startup company, they deal with different rules because they are looking for that exit event. They don't necessarily want to create a company that is sustainable for 10 years, right? If you're looking at being acquired, so a lot of companies now, they want to be acquired by Facebook or whatever else. You think about Instagram, right? So Instagram got bought out, there's like 12 employees and they got bought for $1 billion. Instagram didn't have to think about their 20-year plan. Didn't have to think about their 10-year plan. Didn't have to think about pensions and 401ks and what they were going to do with the next market downturn. Instagram people, right? They built up their company. They got to the point where Mark Zuckerberg was willing to offer them $1 billion, and they sold for $1 billion. And so with startup companies, that's why there's a real focus of investing. That's why there's a real focus on growing quick, right? Grow as fast as possible so you can dominate your sector of the market, make your company, your startup appear very valuable to somebody like Google or Facebook or whatever else, so that they swoop in and they buy your startup for a few $1 billion. You get your exit event. That's how you get to be rich. But understand, grow at all costs is a strategy, and for startups that works very well. You use that exact same strategy to start a business, to grow a business, and you can basically grow yourself into the ground. Scaling yourself to death in the business world is a real thing. You grow so fast, you're doing so many things, all of a sudden you lose track of what you're doing, customers get pissed, they leave. The only way that you get money is when they give you money for your product or service. Things start going downhill really quickly, and one minute you thought you're going to take over the world, and next you're homeless. So anyways, we're going to be talking about businesses today. And the first thing that I'm going to talk about is your most valuable investment. And this is how you know I'm being honest with you folks. Because this is one of the things that very few folks like to talk about, right? Especially in the tech world, especially when you start talking about startup companies and that type of thing. You'll notice that they almost never talk about your most valuable investment, who is your spouse. your relationships, right? Again, there's always focus on everything else in the world. One of the things that I will tell you is the most valuable investment that you're ever going to have is your spouse. This is the person that's going to be with you through thick and thin. This is the person that you liked well enough to actually get married and tie the knot. This is the person that you were legally bound to. When Jeff Bezos decided to legally unbind himself from whoever, the other Bezos, the female Bezos, she walked away with $40 billion, right? You are connected together. So one of the things that you need to be thinking about when you're going down the route of creating a technology business is basically thinking about what is good, not just for the business, but what is also okay for your relationship with your spouse. I've talked about this before when I had my company and I grew it to 9 employees, and we were doubling in size every 2 months and it was wonderful. When everything hit the wall and exploded because of the Great Recession, one of the reasons I've never gone back to that. So a lot of people say, well, Eli, if you're so cool, why didn't you go and do that again? And the reason is because I actually like my wife. It was 2 years, the final 2 years of that company, I was working so much. I was working 30-day months. I was doing 16-hour days. I was doing 16-hour days and then coming home and drinking beer because I was so stressed. Like literally, at one point, my wife and I like going up to the Adirondacks, and I was so stressed and I was so exhausted. I just got beer, and I would just sit on the dock all day, drinking beer, staring at the water. So normally my wife, we'll hike the mountains, we'll paddle places, we'll do all this cool stuff when we go to the Adirondacks. I swear to you, I spent a week, and there was this one type of really light beer, and I would just get massive amounts of it, and I would go out to the dock at like right after lunch or whatever, when it was appropriate, afternoon, and then I just sit there and crack a beer and just stare at the water the rest of the day, drinking really low alcohol beer, because I just did not have any wherewithal. I did not have any brain power to be able to do anything else. And so this is one of the things that you need to be thinking about as you create your business, as you scale your business, as you grow your business, thinking about what's beyond the business itself and what additional damage that you're doing. Are you going to become a multi-millionaire and be completely and utterly alone? And to be clear, I know those people. I'm not jealous of those people. I know people with lots and lots and lots and lots of money that have no real relationships anymore, because in order to get to where they were, they basically had to destroy those things. So be very careful. When we start talking about creating a technology business, again, one of the big things now is everybody thinks, creating a technology business is this thing that you have to do. Like, again, you're not a real X, Y, or Z until you create a technology business. There's been this weird change in the psyche, especially in the United States over the past 20, 30 years, and that has really put entrepreneurs on this idiotic pedestal. As an entrepreneur, I can say it's an idiotic pedestal. And the important thing to be thinking about is you don't need to be an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, let me just say, you can walk away. You can walk away right now. Being an entrepreneur is its own thing. There's a lot of valuable things you get out of being an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of pain in the ass things you get out of being an entrepreneur. Whether you are or are not an entrepreneur, that doesn't say anything about you. Again, one of the things that I've noticed nowadays is a lot of people want ownership, especially with the younger generations. They want ownership. And it's like, why? Why do you want ownership? Again, I just rented a 600 square foot office space that I now really can't have anybody in. Do you want to be dealing with that? Do you want to be dealing with trash collection? Do you want to be dealing with taxes? Do you want to be dealing when the HVAC system goes up? Do you want to be dealing with internet problems? I just spent all day, or half of today, literally simply canceling my internet service with AT&T. So I got a new internet service with AT&T, and so when I got the new service with AT&T, I had to cancel the old service. But the new service people don't talk to the old service people, so I had to spend 5 hours on the phone today talking to the old service people to tell them I went with their new service and I need the old service canceled. Do you really want that? Like right now, I have this whole modem thing, and I have to go to FedEx or UPS or something, and I don't know what the hell I have to do. I have to do a lot of things that have nothing to do with TCP/IP, have nothing to do with functions, have nothing to do with frameworks or anything else. And so one of the big questions that you need to ask yourself is, do you really want to be an entrepreneur? Let me tell you, for like 95% of you, the answer is probably no, right? This is a job. Again, when I sit here and I'm talking with you folks, not only am I responsible for creating this class, not only am I responsible for talking to the camera, again, I'm responsible for the rent, I'm responsible for the trash, I'm responsible for the internet connection, I'm responsible for taxes, I'm responsible for insurance, I'm responsible for so much crap that has nothing at all to deal with computers. Is that what you really want? That's when I was younger. Again, in the 90s, I graduated high school in the 90s. I was part of DECA, Distributed Education Clubs of America. It was actually an entrepreneurship program at our high school. So it was a vocation program. Some people learned how to do plumbing. We learned how to do entrepreneurship. And there was like nobody in our program. We had so few students in an entrepreneurship program because back in the 90s, who the hell would want to bother being an entrepreneur? There's much better ways to make money. And so anyways, that's just one thing to realize. Like there's this real push right now, like in order to be a man or in order to be whatever else, you need to be an entrepreneur. I would not agree. I would not agree. Again, when you think about making $1 gazillion, realize you can also lose $1 gazillion. When was the last time you worked 100-hour weeks for months in a row and lost 30 grand? I can tell you. Right? That's the whole thing in business. In business, you can get outsized rewards. You can make so much money so easily. I have made $4,000 in about 2 hours worth of work. True story. I've also worked 100-hour weeks for months on end and lost 30 grand. So that's one thing, like a lot of people like, well, in order to make real money, in order to have control of your financial future, you need to be an entrepreneur. It's like, well, maybe, kind of depends. That's a bit more of a wiggly discussion than people want to talk about. If you put your money into a basic index fund, a spider fund, basically it tracks the S&P 500. Most people make far more money tracking the S&P 500 than they will trying to create their own business. One of the big things to ask yourself is, are you enough of a failure to build a business? Do you suck so much that it's time for you to be an entrepreneur? One of the things that when we talk about this, again, it's like how you present words. You know, when you the way that you say words can make things seem differently, right? And so what a lot of people try to say with this whole idea of failing into being an entrepreneur was somehow that they were so amazing. They were so amazing and they could see the future and they were so X, Y, or Z. And their bosses just couldn't understand where they were coming from, right? And so they were able to go out there and become a success, right? Once they were able to get rid of the shackles of being a normal employee, they were able to go out there and be really successful, right? That's one way to spin the story. The other way to spin the story is maybe you just suck as an employee. Like maybe you work really hard. Maybe you are willing to work your ass off. You know, when you want to work your ass off, right? I work a lot. Here's a secret though. I also play a lot of video games. So, like, no, don't get me wrong. I sit there and I'll spend days, especially when I do the coding classes for you guys. I will spend days figuring out how to create those demonstrations so I can show you how to code properly. That is true. There's other times though, I just wake up in the morning and I'm like, I just want to play video games today. I just go downstairs and I literally just play video games all day. And that's one of my problems. One of my failures as a normal employee is just doing a 9-to-5 job doesn't psychologically work with me. I will bring, when I am working, I will bring it. I am disciplined and I am motivated. And sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm just going to kill aliens today, right? That doesn't necessarily work in the business world. Again, like sometimes you want to be the visionary. All right. As an employee, your job is to be a cog, right? Employees always hate to hear reality. Telling an employee reality, it always just, I don't know, either makes them sad or makes them pissed off. I don't know what to tell them. If you're an employee, you're a cog. That is the entire purpose of your job, is to be a cog. Whether you're a lawyer cog, whether you're a dishwasher cog, whether you're a receptionist cog, you're a cog. You come in, you do your job, that's what you do for 40 hours a week until you get promoted or until you give up or whatever else, right? Maybe your brain really is out there and it's spastic and it's seeing all of these different possibilities. And so the idea of sitting there and doing one job for 40 hours a week makes you lose your mind, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you're some great, amazing person, right? That doesn't necessarily mean like, yes, I'm so superior. It just means you got a little bit more ADHD. Again, like I say, for me, being an entrepreneur, one minute, I mean, I don't like dealing with AT&T. AT&T sucks. But one minute I'm dealing with AT&T, next minute I'm dealing with taxes, next minute I'm dealing with the physical space. The next minute I'm building things out. The next minute I'm doing code. The next minute I'm creating the presentation. The next minute I'm talking into a camera. The next minute I'm going to a meetup and I'm schmoozing with people in order to get right. And so that's one of the things. Like doing all of these different things is something that I find very easy. It is much more difficult for me, the thought of going in and doing 40 hours of work a week. I have members of my family that are factory workers, like factory workers, and God bless them, I couldn't do that. Again, one of my big frustrations in the modern world is we like to put people on like this pyramid, this hierarchy, right? These are the impressive people, and these are the sucky people. And of course, in our modern world of the hierarchy, entrepreneurs are here and factory workers are here. Let me tell you, if you put me into a factory for 40 hours a week for the next 20 years, oh, what can I say? Let's just say I'm not sure I would survive that experience, right? My brain's just not there. It's not that I'm good or they're bad or anything else. It's just that's not how my brain works. So one of the things to be thinking about if you're going to be an entrepreneur is, are you a complete failure at being an employee? If you're a complete failure at being an employee, depending on the reasons, it might be time to go into business for yourself. Entrepreneurs are such bad employees, they're forced to make their own business to survive, right? And half the time, they want to fire themselves. Again, that's the other thing that's always hilarious. Again, if you actually talk with real entrepreneurs and real entrepreneurs tell you about their own opinions of themselves, like many times it's almost more harsh than what they talk about with their own employees, right? Like, again, the confidence that you see, the ego that you see, the arrogance that you see, it's an act, it's a play. If you're going to sell products to the end person, if you are going to lead your team of employees, if you're going to convince investors that you are a sure bet, and if they put money anywhere else, they're going to leave money on the table, right? You got to come off cocksure. You got to come off egotistical. You got to come off like you own the world. Doesn't mean that's how you actually feel. Right? I think about that with these videos. Like when I used to do these videos and get all hyper, because when I used to do video, when I first started doing these videos years and years ago, back in 2009, 2010, that was when my wife was having her cancer. So my wife has had 3 cancers at this point. That was when she had her first cancers, thyroid cancer and breast cancer. And it was incredibly hard on me. It was incredibly emotionally draining. The thought of the love of my life most likely dying in a god-awful way. It doesn't exactly put a smile on my face. But I had to do the work. Right back then, I was trying to build up this whole video production company. I was the person that was doing the videos. And so when I came in, I was sad. I was depressed. I didn't know what the hell the future was going to bring. I had a whole bunch of other things going on. And so you know what I did? I bought a big old venti of Starbucks coffee. I would down a venti of Starbucks coffee before I did the video, and as soon as every video started, hello again, as you know, I am Eli the Computer Guy, and today we're going to be talking about something I don't really care about. That's the thing, but before you watch those videos, I would be sitting there. I'd be sitting there, fuck, I wonder what the surgeries are going to be like. Christ. Okay, how are we going to do that? Right, I'd be sitting there trying to figure out all that kind of stuff. And then, right, for the videos, for the camera, you don't want to see that. Again, if you're a boss, your employees don't want to see that. Your investors don't want to see that. Your customers, your clients don't want to see that. Whatever they say, they're lying. They don't want to see reality. What do they want to see? They want to see you walk in. Hey guys, how are we doing today? Okay, I see that this is where our stats are going. Okay, these metrics are looking great. Really proud of you folks for pushing those metrics up. The problem is that the prices that we're doing for some of these things that is also getting a little high. So if you folks could focus on trying to keep the costs down a little bit, that would be absolutely wonderful. I am proud of the employees. I am proud of everything that you're doing, and we are going to take over the world, aren't we? Yeah. Take over the world. Fuck, I can't even control my own asshole. Hey investors, how are you doing investors? Oh my God, we are doing so good. Let me show you our QuickBooks. Let me show you our metrics. Look, this is the profit loss. This is where our client acquisition prices are going. I think we're going to be able to take this market in no time. If we're able to get about another, $500,000 in funding, I believe that $500,000 in funding that will really accelerate our client acquisition. Once our client acquisition gets to a certain point, we're basically going to dominate this market. And once we're able to dominate the market, money is going to be rolling in for all of us. Okay, you going to write a check for us? Great. Yeah, great. I'm going to have $1 gazillion and be alone in a 10,000 square foot house. Hey, I'm going to have a 10,000 square foot house and be alone. Yeah, a dog at least. 10,000 square foot house and a dog. There you go. Okay. Then you go to your customers. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, were you having a couple of problems with your system or whatever? Oh, I'm sorry that we didn't do everything up to whatever standards you thought we were supposed to do. Let me take a look at it. I am going to personally take a look at it and make sure that you're taken care of. Don't worry, we have everything under control. Sometimes there's problems, but that's why I am here, to make sure this company is absolutely amazing and you want to keep coming back and doing business with this company. That's all right. But the point to understand with this is you're playing a part. You're playing a part. It's not reality. It's not reality. Be careful. Be careful. Because if you're sitting there and you're wondering, why do I have so much doubt? Because that's what a lot of people nowadays do, right? It's this whole it's this BS psychology. Since everybody lies, so few people tell the truth. The problem you run into is people that are doing things perfectly fine. People that are actually pretty successful at what they do, they are hard on themselves because they don't live up to the illusion of what other people are presenting. Why do I doubt myself? These other people don't doubt themselves. Why am I sad? Why am I tired? These other people aren't sad or tired. No, they're all in the same boat. They're all in the exact same boat that you are. The only difference is you don't see behind their facade, and they don't see behind your facade. So, everybody thinks that being an entrepreneur is the most amazing thing in the world. It's a job. It's a job. Owners are responsible for more than the cool stuff. Again, plumbing, taxes, ants, firing good people, promoting bad people. And again, for any employees out there, this is part of our job. Sometimes promoting bad people is a thing that you have to do. That worthless, jackass piece of crap happens to be our best salesperson. When that jackass piece of crap salesperson sells $200,000 worth of product, that keeps a whole bunch of people in this company employed. A whole bunch of good people in this company employed. So, why are you promoting that bad person? Because I don't like them either. But I do like these other folks. And I do like making money too. So sometimes you got to promote bad people. And sometimes you got to fire good people. Sometimes, again, the business shifts. Let's say you have a technology business. Then you've been doing certain things, like you've been doing telephone systems, and you've been doing websites, and you've been doing other things. All of a sudden, the world shifts, right? You no longer need that person to do, let's say, telephone systems. Or again, imagine with Silicon Dojo. So let's say Silicon Dojo, let's say it was further down the path. Let's say it actually already hired in-person instructors. So, people could come here. I would have in-person instructors teaching people how to build Arduinos or whatever else. They may be wonderful people. They may be great people, great families, whole 9 yards. If the government shuts us down, if the government makes it infeasible to have in-person classes anymore, those good people have to be fired. Their business rationale no longer exists. And that is your job as a business owner. Do you really want this ownership? Sounds good. Sounds good. You got to do it in the real world. Have you heard of hobbies? Have you heard of hobbies? There is this thing in the olden times that people used to do called a hobby. Basically, a hobby is stuff that you do because you like to play around with things. Yes, you like to build websites. Great. But do you really want to do that as a business? You like to build computers, yeah, but do you want to build 1,000 of them? You like to build a network. You built a network for your church group, but does that mean you really want to be running cable for the rest of your lives? Maybe you really just want to build a few websites and get some money to earn for a nicer vacation. This is something to think about. Hobbies is one of those weird things. Again, when I was younger, everybody had hobbies, right? You would go and you would do your job. You did your job that paid your mortgage. And then you would go home and do what you cared about. Maybe you worked with church groups, maybe you worked with kids, maybe you had hobbies. We used to have this thing called hobby. You go and you do a job, and then after you get done with your job, you come home and do the stuff that you really care about. Maybe you really just want a hobby. Hobbies are a concept from the olden days, where people had a job, and then on their off hours, they would do things they found interesting. Do you really want a business? I think about this with my grandfather. So my grandfather was really good with his hands. He was an amazing artisan. Absolutely, he was amazing as an artist. I have one of his things at home. Just absolutely fabulous work he would do with his hands. Here is the thing. He sucked with money. He was so bad with money. I literally sat there. I was talking with him one time because he retired, and because of when he retired, it was like the pension fund or whatever didn't cover some surgery that he needed, and then that kind of mucked him and Grandma up for a while financially. And I remember talking to my grandfather about this, and I was like, "Well, Grandpa, why didn't you just stay?" It was like a year. It was like 1 or 2 years more of working, and a lot of things would have gone better financially. And I asked him, I was like, "Well, Grandpa, why didn't you do that?" And he was like, "Yeah, well, that probably would have been the smart move." Like, damn. he didn't like, so he was just like, yeah, it probably would have been smarter for me to stay there an extra couple of years so that things worked out a little bit better financially. And one of the things that I think about with Grandpa is he was great. Artistically, he was absolutely great. He just made amazing stuff that on a per piece basis, he probably could have sold for quite a bit of money. The thing was, when it came to money, boy just didn't grasp money. He just did not get money. And so that's one of the problems you can run into. Remember, with a business is about profit. Profit is about, getting supplies at a reasonable cost. It's about getting resources at a cost. It's about selling at a high enough price that you're actually able to get a profit. It's about doing taxes. It's about, dealing with licensing. It's about insurance. It's about a lot of math and crap like that in QuickBooks, right? And so one of the questions to ask yourself, again, is that what you really, really, really want to do? Are you going to get a lot of value out of it? I think a lot of people won't. Again, entrepreneur is more than a title. Yes, I know. We're going to get to the actual business stuff. I'm just trying to wave off the people that don't want to be entrepreneurs. Most of you don't. Anyways, entrepreneur is more than a title. The people to get you to where you are going are not the ones that are going to get you to where you are, or they're not the ones that got you to where you are. This was a great quote I got from an entrepreneur friend of mine, probably about 15 years ago. And this is one of the sad components about being an entrepreneur folks don't like to talk about, is you are going to be leaving people behind. Well, hopefully, if you're successful as an entrepreneur. Let's just pretend you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur. Being successful as an entrepreneur means you are going to be leaving people behind. Being an entrepreneur, being an owner, being a boss is a different social class than being a run-of-the-mill employee, right? And so one of the big issues that you get into is as you go on your entrepreneurial path, you are going to have a lot of heartache as you leave people behind. Again, where the liars come out, the lies that you hear, it's all about the people that you're going to meet, right? As you go up the social strata, you're going to meet all of these amazing people, right? Which is true, that component is true. But the lie of omission, is they don't talk about all the people that you're going to have to leave behind, right? Because as you go up the strata, the people that got you to where you are not going to be the same people to get you to where you're going. And you only have so many hours in the day. Not only that, but people have a lot of psychological issues, right? When people look at money, especially right now, right? The whole argument between the 1% and the 99%. One of the biggest issues is, at least in the United States, is people are really bad at math. Our education system is so bad that people can't seem to do like the 1% on math. And so people think every business owner is somebody in the 1%. Every business owner is a Rockefeller. You own a sub shop somewhere and you're on gazillions of dollars, right? You have a computer repair company and they think you're diving into cash in your bank account. There's a lot of weird psychological things that go on. So when you become more successful, what happens then? Again, one of the big issues that I saw when I went from not doing so well to doing better is the cost of beer, right? You go out and you hang out with your friends that aren't doing so well, and wherever you go to hang out, beer costs, let's say, $3 a pint or whatever else, right? You drink Pabst. So you go out and you're drinking Pabst. Well, as you start to make more money, I mean, one of the nice things about making more money is you can afford better beer. And so then you start wanting to go to places that have better beer. But then your buddies, they haven't increased in the economic sphere. They still have the exact same money that they had before. So you're making money, you want to go out and you want to buy better beer, but they don't have enough money to go out and be able to drink this better beer with you. And you get into weird social things going on. So something to think about. Employers and employees see the world differently, and many times their views are incompatible. Again, the owner of a company is going to look at the capitalistic system a different way than the employee of a company will. And there's just different ways of looking at the world, and you need different types of people. Again, a salesperson looks at the world differently than a sysadmin looks at the world. An owner looks at the world differently than a janitor looks at the world. In order to have a particular position, you need to embody the psychological things that go along with that. And so one of the big issues that you run into is, again, employers and employees look at the world differently. I remember this with one of my friends who was an entrepreneur. He had built up his business. He was doing pretty well at the time. And he ran into an old high school friend that was an employee. And again, this employer, this business owner had employees, was dealing with all this crap. And then they went out to have a couple of beers. And the employee friend is sitting there talking about what a bastard his boss is. And my buddy said he just got more and more frustrated, because the more he heard his friend complain about the boss, he recognized the boss as himself. He was sitting there thinking, well, that actually doesn't seem unreasonable from the boss. Actually, that seems like that's pretty commonplace from the boss. And so his friend is sitting there bitching about this boss, and my buddy, who is a boss now, is like, wow, this is like my buddy essentially bitching about me, right? It's a very weird place to get into psychologically. 20-hour days are not an exaggeration. Again, when you're an entrepreneur, remember, there is no minimum wage laws for entrepreneurs. Minimum wage for an entrepreneur, is like negative 5,000 or something. You can work your ass off and you can lose money as an entrepreneur. And so working 20-hour days is a real thing. So you really have to think about it. Again, when you're an employee, you get to go home. You get to go home. Not when you're the boss. People never shut up about what you should do. This is one of the weird things that I found being an entrepreneur is, so again, since I'm a tech entrepreneur, I get to see this from two sides. So when I do things in technology, almost nobody complains about it. Very few people bitch about a lot of the technology stuff that I talk about, right? People don't try to gig me on whether you should use Windows or Linux, whether you should use iOS or Android, what distribution of Linux that you should use, the whole 9 yards, right? At least in the real world, right? Because this is a technical topic, right? Like technology is a technical topic. Very few people actually understand how technology works in the real world, so usually they keep their mouth shut as far as technology is concerned. But the weird thing is we have like this pop entrepreneurship going around. It's kind of like pop psychology. You notice, a decade or so ago, everybody became a pop psychologist. You sit there and you go to grab a beer and you're tired, and all of a sudden people are just telling you everything wrong with your life. Well, the reason that you're tired is blah, 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 blah. And you're like, what the hell? Because there's this idea, like this like somehow people think that psychology is easy, which is not. Real psychology is not easy. But they think psychology is easy, so they feel like they're able to talk about psychology, and so then they'll never shut up about their opinions of your psychological health. The same thing is true about business and entrepreneurship. What I have been horrified by is how much people will not shut up about how I should run the business. Oh my God, parents and friends and loved ones and jackasses on the street, they always think they know what's best. I've got the numbers, I've got the metrics, I've got the QuickBooks. I have so many numbers I'll pore over for hours and hours at a time trying to pull out the value proposition there. And then some schmuck off the streets thinks that they can just throw this advice on you and you need to listen to whatever the hell that they're saying. And so again, one of the things we talk about from a sociological standpoint, a social standpoint, is you have to learn to start ignoring a hell of a lot of people. A lot of people that care about you are going to say a lot of stupid crap. And they're going to say it because they feel like they have the right to say it for some reason. That's all bad. And again, it's harsh. And your loved ones will lie to you. This is another big one, very hard when you become an entrepreneur, is people are worried about your emotional state. For some reason, they're not worried about whether or not you starve to death. So here's the thing. If your business fails, you got to worry about, feeding yourself. But a lot, again, in this pop psychology world, like, people are really worried. They don't want you to feel bad. They don't want you to feel bad, right? So if you go to your friends, if you go to your family, and you have this product idea, and you're like, look, I'm thinking about selling this particular product for $10 a pop or whatever. I'm gonna tell you what your friends or family are gonna say. Oh yeah, I'm sure people out there will want it. Yes, I'm thinking about selling dog crap in a box for $10 a pop. Pet dog crap, I'm gonna call it. I bet you if you go up to your friends and family, a good chunk of your friends and family will, yeah, I'm sure, oh yeah, in this modern world, somebody's gonna buy the hell out of pet dog crap. Here's the thing, they're worried about your emotions. They don't want you to feel bad. They don't want you to think your idea is half as stupid as it actually is, right? They're looking at your idea and they're thinking that is the stupidest freaking idea I've ever heard in my life. There was no way I would spend 50 cents on this stupid ass idea. And you say, well, what's your opinion? And they're like, I definitely, I think people will buy that. Because they're worried about their emotional state. Again, this is one thing, if you ever watched a lot of my videos, one of the reasons I'm snarky, one of the reasons that I'm harsh, is because I know the damage done with people trying to be nice. Because when people are trying to be nice to you, they're not worried about whether or not you'll starve to death in a month. They're not worried that you have a finite amount of financial resources. You are burning through those financial resources in order to get a product on the market. And if that product goes on the market and fails, you are screwed 9 ways to Sunday. No, they don't want you to feel bad, right? And so you gotta be very careful about this. So whenever you're talking to people about advice or whatever, a big good thing is don't necessarily talk to your loved ones. Go out and talk to other business people. Go out and talk to other folks that might actually buy your product. If they say, yes, I think that's a good product, you ask them, okay, how much would you pay for this product? Well, if they can't tell you how much they would pay for the product, they're lying. They're lying. Stop lying, right? Ask them things. How much would you pay for this product? What size should the product be? Should it be on demand? Should it be on delivery? Ask those kinds of questions, because what a lot of people are going to say is, yes, that is a great idea, when they don't know what the answer is. Again, really big problem that you can have. Passion. Passion is a big one. Passion is a big one. You should be passionate. If you're going to start a tech company, you should be passionate. That's garbage. That's garbage. Passion. It's a fire that burns bright, hot, and quickly out. Right? That's the thing. Passion is amazing. Passion is the greatest high, right? Whatever it is, whether it's a person that you're gonna do whatever with, whether it's sports, whatever it is that you love in life. The reason that passion is so amazing is because so many chemicals get dumped into your brain, right? When you experience whatever it is that you're passionate about, all the chemicals dump into your system and you feel amazing. Here's the thing. The reason that you feel amazing is because all the chemicals are getting dumped in your system for a limited amount of time. A business goes on forever. It's a song that has no end. It goes on and on, my friend. Someone started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they kept on singing it because it is a song that has no end. That is what business is about. Business is not about you being successful for a day, for a week, for a month, for a year. It's about being successful for decades, right? And so the problem with passion is if you do something that you're passionate about, is that passion will burn out. As I've talked about this in many other videos before, there's a difference between passion and marriage. If you are going to start a business, you are going to become married to your business. I talk about with my wife, and I'm not throwing my wife under the bus. Again, my wife has had 3 cancers. There's other things that have gone on in our lives. Again, passion is about that romantic weekend somewhere in some far off country. All kinds of amazing stuff. And then afterwards, people part ways and do whatever they're going to do. Marriage is day after day after day after day after day. Marriage is when my wife had the double mastectomy and there was like this weird little drain thing, having to go in with my wife and actually drain the fluids out from behind the implants that they had put in. That's marriage. Are you very passionate about that? Again, when you think about wife or whatever else, do you think about those things? No, because that's not passion. So be very careful when you think about the idea of passion. Passion is a garbage concept. It's what the liars say in order to get you excited, right? Because if they talk about being passionate, right? If you do what you love, you'll love every day of your life. That's garbage. That's trash. They're selling you trash. Basically, the idea, if you're going to be doing a business, is can you iterate till you die? Can you iterate till death? Again, even with this, Silicon Dojo, this may seem amazing for any number of reasons. Again, being a YouTube content creator, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a YouTube content creator. Isn't this amazing? Remember, I have to create videos day in, day out. I have been creating videos since September of 2009. I have done so many videos. I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of videos. Some have been really good, some have been garbage, right? As an entrepreneur, it's about doing it again and again and again. It's like, imagine if you come up with a pizzeria, right? There's all these things about creating a pizzeria. But at the end of the day, having a pizzeria is about shipping pizza. People come in, order a pizza, you give them a pizza. Another person orders a pizza, you give them a pizza. Another person orders a pizza, gives them a pizza. Repeat till your shift is over. Wake up in the morning, repeat till your shift is over. Wake up in the morning, repeat till your shift is over. Again, when you think about entrepreneurship in the modern world, are you thinking about being that pizza guy, having a little pizzeria, just day after day after day after day after day after day after day, making pepperoni pizzas? At the end of the day, even with me, even with Silicon Dojo, doing videos and all this kind of stuff, this is a much more complicated version of a pepperoni pizza. Find a business you can do when you are sick, when you are depressed, when you are tired, and are just being cranky. Again, can you do the business when you feel at your worst? You don't, as an entrepreneur, you don't get sick leave. Again, the amazing benefits of being an entrepreneur: you don't get minimum wage, and you don't get sick leave, and you don't get vacation time, and the government's still going to tax the ever-loving hell out of you if you're able to make a success out of any of this. So one of the things you need to be thinking about with your business is you need to be able to do it day after day after day after day. Again, like with me, if I get sick, I'll sit here and I'll research. So when I'm feeling really good, I'm feeling excited, I'll come here and I'll do videos. When I'm feeling like crap, I do research. When I'm feeling indifferent, when I don't have enough brain power, I go out with schmooze. Right? Again, it's different things. As an entrepreneur, there's different tasks that have to be accomplished. And so based off of how I'm currently feeling, I'll focus on different tasks. But you just got to keep frickin' doing it. You ship a product not once, not twice, or 100 times. You ship the product tens of thousands of times. Repeat, 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 again until dead. And then the next thing to be thinking about is what overall lifestyle do you want to have? Again, when you're thinking about creating that business, what do you want your life to look like? Things to be thinking about. How many hours a day do you actually want to work? Again, to be clear, there are some people out there that really are workaholics. Again, there are different types of people out there. You have to think about who you are. Look in the mirror and ask yourself who you are, right? There are people that are workaholics. They find meaning in work. They find meaning in their business. Anytime they're not doing work, that's when they get really depressed and become alcoholics or whatever else. So some people like to work all the time. Other people, you may have a particular situation. Maybe you're a single parent and you have to deal with kids. Maybe you have other dependents that you have to worry about. Maybe you have a health issue. You only have enough energy to work 5 or 6 hours a day. So one of the things you need to be thinking about is when you're creating your business is what are the hours actually going to look like for that business? Again, if you have a store, so something to think about. If you have a store, that store has to be manned a certain amount of hours. So let's say you have a computer repair shop. The computer repair shop, let's say it's open 8 hours a day. Let's say you're open from noon to 8. That means you're open from noon to 8. You gotta be there from noon to 8. Every day you're supposed to be open. If you're not open when you're supposed to be open, customers are gonna come, you're not gonna be there, they're gonna get pissed off, everything kind of goes to hell. Is that the kind of business that you want? On the other hand, if you're doing something like web design or something along those lines, you may be able to fit that into your schedule better. Pay. Important thing to think about is how much money do you actually want to make? Again, when you start talking about businesses, you can make a gazillion dollars, you can make a few $1,000s. How much money you make off of a business, part of that is what you decide to go for at the end of the day. The people that work harder, the people that push for more money are going to make more money. And so you need to be thinking about, again, how valuable is that to you? I think about that with coding languages, right? Certain coding languages are worth a lot more than other coding languages, right? If you want to go out, I don't know, React Native. I think React Native is pretty valuable right now. So let's say React Native. If you start a development company, you're doing React Native or something like that, you know, the income level's here. If you're doing PHP, the income level's here. It's programming. It's all freaking programming at the end of the day. There's just different values for the different types of programming languages. And so one of the questions that you have to ask yourself is, you may be really comfortable with PHP. You like PHP, you've done PHP forever, you can just come in and you can sing with PHP. And maybe you don't care about the money. Maybe money isn't the most important thing. Again, flexibility, other things are important for you, so you just stick with PHP. On the other hand, maybe money is the important thing. The reason you're getting into business is because you want to make the bank. You now know PHP, you see a different language is far more valuable, so then you bust your ass to learn that new language, you do everything that's required in order to be able to sell services for that new language, and then you're up at that higher pay level. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's something you have to think about. Intangibles, the people that you work around, where are you, the whole 9 yards. Be thinking about that when you start a business. Again, with Silicon Dojo. Oh. Asheville was a hell of a place to try to start a technology education business. Asheville is its own kind of weird, special place. One, there's not a lot of technology here. And two, people are motivated for their own things. Like back in the Baltimore area, the Baltimore, D.C. area, everybody is hyper-focused on money. Hyper-focused on money to degradation to everything else, right? The weird part here is you come to Asheville, and people are just kind of fine. Like, they bitch about money, but it's not like they're really that motivated to do much about it. It sounds harsh, it's not really harsh, it's just kind of how it is. And so one of the things with creating Silicon Dojo here is, one of the valuable things for me is the intangibles of being in Asheville. From a financial standpoint, this was stupid. This was so stupid. From an intangible standpoint, though, it's actually pretty nice, right? They have lots of great beer. They have lots of music venues when you're able to get into them. I actually really enjoy the people. You can go out and you can do wonderful hiking within an hour. There's amazing hiking wherever you want to go. When you start a business in Asheville, the intangibles are very, very valuable. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start my business at Silicon Dojo here in Asheville. It's not because of the crap ton of money that I can make here, right? But again, no right or wrong answer. That's one of the things that you have to think about. In the Baltimore area, I could have made a hell of a lot more money and been as depressed as many of the people that were around me. Again, I knew lots and lots of people making a crap ton of money, and I always wondered which one of them was going to put a bullet through their head, right? Just because, yeah, they were financially successful, but in many other ways, they were completely miserable. I would prefer to know my neighbors and all that kind of thing. And that's what you have to think about. Again, when you're setting up a business, do you like people or do you not like dealing with people, right? If you dislike dealing with people, then becoming a web developer or some kind of coder might be valuable for you because you don't have to deal with people very often. On the other hand, if you're a people person, maybe you want to become like a computer repair company or something like that because you're actually interacting with folks. Experience, basically the type of experience that you'll get for the business that you're going to be creating. Are you going to be creating a business that's going to be doing new and amazing, really cool things? You're going to create a quantum computing business, right? That's a possibility. Something to think about. Things like commute. Again, one of the things I like about being in Asheville is I have a 1 mile commute. I walk 1 mile. Like literally, since I moved to Asheville, I have an F-150 truck. I literally drive my F-150 truck at least once a week. Just to make sure the gaskets don't shrink and do bad things, because I just simply don't need to walk. This is not an eco thing. This is not a hipster thing. I don't walk or I don't drive much in Asheville simply because I literally don't need to drive in this type of place. And so something to be thinking about with yourself when you're creating a business is, what is that commute going to look like? If you get a fancy store in the middle of a city, let's say Washington, D.C. or New York, the residential real estate may be so expensive there that in order for you to be able to afford residential real estate, you then have to drive in an hour and a half or 2 hours or something ridiculous. something to think about with your business. And then generally the people that you're going to be dealing with. When you go out there to sell your products, to sell your services, to deal with your vendors, one of the things to ask yourself is, how do you feel about these people that you're going to be dealing with? Are these people that you can do business with? It's relatively easy, or are you going to be getting jammed up on things? So these are all kinds of things that you have to be thinking about when you're going to be creating your business, is basically the lifestyle that you're going to have. Again, one of the snarky things you hear in the startup world is, you have a lifestyle business. It's like, jackass, we all have lifestyle businesses. Again, what lifestyle are you creating? Again, if you're creating a business that's going to have 1,000 employees and you're flying around in a private jet, that's a lifestyle. If you have a business where it's you and 600 square foot office space that you get to walk to, this is a lifestyle. But what kind of lifestyle you want is very, very, very important. One of the big things to be thinking about when you're trying to figure out all of this kind of stuff is find fulfillment. Your business should be, how do I say this without seeming artsy-fartsy, should be spiritually nourishing. When you come in to do your business, you should feel better at the end of the day. So like people that like to run, people that like to exercise, they may get tired at the end of the exercise, they may get exhausted, they may even get injured, but it's nourishing for them. Right? When you eat food, it's nourishing. When you do other things, it's nourishing. Your business should be nourishing for you. Again, you may get exhausted, you may get tired, you may get burned the hell out and hate everybody. I'm not Pollyanna-ish, this crap. But basically, it should nourish you so that day after day after day, you get something about coming back and doing what it is that you're doing. One of the quotes from my younger self before my life got diverted, again, I was in the military, did some emergency services stuff and all that kind of thing, is one of the quotes from the old days is, "So others may live." And I took that very seriously back in the old days, right? Putting my life on the line so that somebody else will make it home. It's just a psychology thing. This is psychology, not good or bad. It's just how my brain works. And so one of the things that I find with Silicon Dojo, one of the things that I find valuable about doing all the videos and everything that I've done over 12 years is how many people randomly out of nowhere come and shake my hand and say thank you for what you've done. So beyond money, beyond this, beyond that, people just saying thank you. You do not know how important you've been for my life. I think about this here in Asheville. Like literally, I was at an Indian restaurant last weekend. I was at an Indian restaurant, sitting there eating Indian food with some friends. We come out, and this guy comes out and follows me, an Indian guy at an Indian restaurant, walks out and says, "Hey, before you leave, I just want to say thank you so much." I'm like, "Excuse me?" He's like, 10 years ago, I was watching your videos in southern India. I now work for Cisco in the Research Triangle. I really appreciate what you've done, and I want you to understand how significant that's been for me." That's fulfilling, right? That is nourishment, spiritual nourishment, in a way that we really don't talk about a lot in our society. And again, when I get folks that do this, it's even as snarky as I am, it's hard to be that snarky. Again, I was in Roman Forum, a Pakistani couple came up and was taking a selfie with me in the Roman Forum, telling me how useful my content has been. And so that's something to be thinking about with yourself when you're building a business. How is it going to nourish you? Right? Again, maybe it's pay. I'm not anti-pay. But like you have to be thinking about what drives you. When you go to bed at night, what are you going to be proud of? Are you going to be proud of a jet? Maybe. Who knows? Or are you going to be proud that somebody says thank you? I went from India to Research Triangle, and much of that is the content that you created. Your business, again, should nourish you spiritually. As some people can't eat gluten or dairy, some entrepreneurs what the hell am I saying here? Anyways, basically different entrepreneurs find different aspects of their business valuable. Does prestige matter to you? Again, being significant. I am significant. Does that matter to you? Does money matter to you? Again, does a thankful handshake matter to you? What is actually valuable to you? I think about this where my wife and I just left. We just left from Maryland. And one of the reasons that we left, one of the moments that we realized it was time to go, is when one of our neighbors just made this amazing pool. like amazing. Like I can't snark about this pool. Holy crap! He got like this, like I don't know, just like this resort class pool in his backyard. Absolutely. Oh my god! I had all the stuff, right? It's better than most hotels would have. Fancy 5-star hotels don't have a pool like this. But a lot of it was just that look, I've got a pool. Look at this significant thing. And again, for my wife and I, we realized when we looked at that, we're just like we don't care. we like our Ford vehicles. We like some good food. We do like art. I do like collecting art. But I realized like that kind of thing wasn't that significant. Getting a fancier car, getting a plane, getting a big ass pool, which costs as much as a plane, right? It's just not that significant. So this is something to be thinking about when you create your business. And then finally, what nobody likes to talk about, and can you pay for health insurance, rent, and vacation? So many people get into business, especially when they talk about passion and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, they'll be nodding their heads on this kind of thing. But again, when it comes down to are you making enough money? You have to make enough money to be able to provide for your family, to be able to provide for yourself, to actually make doing the business worthwhile. And so that's part of fulfillment. Getting paid, like how much you get paid is a question, but getting paid enough is not a question. If you're going hungry, or if your spouse gets cancer and you can't afford health insurance, that's a whole nasty ass game. Okay, so now we're actually going to get into business. I don't know how far we are into this video. Now we're going to start to actually get into the whole entrepreneurship thing. For the 5% of people that actually stuck it out. So the first big thing that comes when you're thinking about starting your own business is the whole question of when do you quit your day job? All right, a lot of entrepreneurs will sit there drinking beers, all talking about when they're going to quit their day job. And my argument is don't. Don't quit your day job. Keep your day job just as long as possible. One, just to keep in mind, is your business is most likely going to fail. Let's be honest. You're going to fail. You're going to suck. It's okay. Maybe your next one will succeed. Or the next one after that. It's kind of like when you go into business, when you do businessy types things, 1 out of every 10 things that you do is going to be successful. So some lucky people, it's the first thing that they do. Some unlucky people, it's a 10th thing that you do. So do you want to quit your job when there's a really good chance what you're jumping into is going to fail? I would argue stick with your day job. Job funding is a great form of funding, right? People talk about debt financing or equity financing. I like salary financing, especially if you're in the tech world, right? How many tech professionals that I know make a lot of money, make so much money, right? You're making over 6 figures, again, if you're a tech professional already, doing coding or whatever else, going to a job where you know what's going on, you got healthcare benefits, you got all of these things, and you most likely have time on the side, right? So here's the thing. When you think about funding, because a lot of funding isn't actually that much. You see a lot of people like, oh, they will go to the ends of the earth for pennies, like $50,000. Oh my golly, this grant or this person got me $50,000 or whatever else. Well, again, if you're a coder in the modern world and you're already making in the 6 figures, something to think about is if you massively decrease how much it costs for you to live every month, you might be able to get all your funding for your startup initially just from your salary. So one of the things to think about is why give up that funding that can come in. People you work with are valuable for product testing and bouncing ideas off of. Again, a big thing, especially if you're going to create a technology business, you most likely have an idea of what you're going to go after. You're going to do a product, you're going to do code, whatever else. Most likely you're solving a problem that you recognized. If you've seen that problem, most likely other people that you work with have also seen that problem, but you're motivated and disciplined enough to actually try to solve the problem. So if you come in with your beta products, if you come in with your ideas, and you show the people that are around you that have the same mentality as you do, what you're doing, you can then get real feedback on whether or not your product is worthwhile. Again, let's say, cybersecurity is a big deal. Cybersecurity is a big thing, right? So let's say you're trying to create some kind of intrusion detection system. Intrusion detection with some kind of automated response that happens. All right, so you go in and you're working with it. And then you go and you talk with your boss and you ask your boss like what kind of issues that they're having with the current intrusion detection system or whatever else. And then you go home, make sure you don't do the actual work at your company because then they may try to claim to own it. Do all the work right? But then come in and talk with people, whatever else, and then see who might be willing to play with it, see who might be able to work with it, see how many people are actually excited to use the product. Again, everybody is going to tell you that your product is amazing. Everybody's going to tell you that you're going to take over the world with your product. None of that matters. What matters is how many people are asking for your product. Hey, when you get the next beta done, can I get a copy of it? Those are the people that I care about. I used a copy of the last beta of your product, and the problem that I ran into is, this is a person that has a problem, this is a person that is willing to use your product to solve a problem, and this is a person that is using your product to a degree where they see the obvious issues of your product. Those are the people that are going to be incredibly valuable for you, and you get that when you're working in a company, right? Quitting your job is a lot like graduating college, right? For me, I graduated college and didn't immediately go into a job, and it was sad, right? You spend all this time and energy focused on graduating, and then you graduate, and then... And then what? And then what? Same thing is true as quitting the job. You know, one minute you're surrounded by like-minded people, all excited to take on the world. The next you are alone in your apartment, second-guessing every thought. Because that's what people think. That's what people, it's like they have this idea that I'm going to quit my job and then I'm going to focus. I'm going to laser focus. Yeah, that's what we all think. That's what we all think. It generally doesn't work out that way. You quit your job, and then, you know, it's kind of a nice day. Oh, so you'll do your work tomorrow. And then one thing leads to another, and then you don't actually get anything accomplished, and then you run out of money. That's kind of what happens a lot of times. And so I would really say, don't quit your day job until you know that you want to quit your day job. For me, again, the 3 experiences that I would talk about with quitting my day job. So again, I became a consultant. After the dot-com bust. What I mean by this is literally I was working as a file clerk because nobody would hire me back in like 2002 or whatever it was. And nobody would hire me. I had an MCSE, I had military, I had a college degree. Again, the job market for IT was just horrible at that time period. And so I started putting up pull tab signs. I put up pull tab signs. In 1 month, I was making more money than I was as a file clerk. And so I quit my job. Because it was kind of obvious. I half-assing it, not knowing what the hell I was doing back in the Windows XP Service Pack 1 era, I was able to make more money in my first month than I was making being a file clerk. And so it was manifestly obvious that there was more money doing that than it was being a file clerk. And so that's why I quit my job back then. I think about this with when I started doing YouTube professionally full-time. So I've been doing YouTube professionally around 2011 or something. Been paying me a salary. And that was the thing is I had been working on the whole idea for a couple of years at that point. I had gone back to being a consultant, and then YouTube, the money started rolling in on YouTube. 1 month it was 100, then it was 300, then it was 500, 1,000 going up. And so when I hit 500, I still remember going to my wife, and I was like, "Look, dear, we have the curve. We have a curve." And so I told her, I was like, "Yeah, so I'm gonna stop consulting. I'm gonna focus on YouTube." And my wife looked at it, was like, "Yeah, but at that point, that curve tops out at $500 a month. We got bills, bucko. We got bills, but we got a curve." And the important thing to understand here, I didn't quit my job because of investors. I sure as hell didn't quit my job because my wife believed in what I was doing. I quit my job having done business, having had employees, having done all this stuff. When I saw that curve, what I had needed was the curve. Once I saw that ramping effect, I believed. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to try to go after. I knew why I thought everything would work. And so when I saw that curve ramp up, I was willing to dive into it. Even if everybody else thought I was absolutely out of my mind. And the final thing, again, jumping into Silicon Dojo, is after getting punished on YouTube 3 times for not breaking the rules, I ran into a problem where, again, the business that I've been doing, where I've been making money for 10 years now at this point, is self-destructing. I don't want to leave YouTube. I wish YouTube was great. I wish I could trust YouTube. I wish all of this would work out the way that it seems like it should. But we we have the CEO that we do at YouTube, and therefore there's bigger issues. And so that's why I jumped off to try to create Silicon Dojo at this point, because the ship that I'm currently on seems to be sinking. And these are the things that you need to be thinking about when you're going to be quitting your day job. Because I see so many people out there, again, especially with that kind of startup mentality, there's this idea of you're not a real business until you quit your day job. And so people quit their day job, not realizing all of the value that comes from having that day job. And then they fail. They just don't get the pickup in order to become successful. So keep your day job as long as possible. Quitting your day job doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything, right? I think about this. Bob Parsons, GoDaddy, made lots and lots of money off of GoDaddy, and he talked about that. He worked his full-time job for 3 years. I think it was 3 years. 3 years he did his full-time job building GoDaddy every night when he came home, and now he has a crap ton of money. And so again, there's the narrative, there's the story about how real business people do things, and then there's like the reality. So think about your tech business almost like a hobby. Like instead of having a hobby, instead of doing sports, you come home and you do your business. And if you come home every night and you do 3 hours of work after work every day, that's 15 hours of work per week. That's 60 hours of work per month that you're doing in order to build your business while you're earning money from your job. You can get a lot done in 60 hours per month if you're really focused on what it is that you're trying to do. One of the big things when you start building your business that's going to be very important is to build a workflow. So what we talk about when we're talking about workflow is the actual way that you are going to accomplish work. So basically things like the fulfillment process. So let's say you're doing computer repair. So what is the workflow for computer repair? You need to figure this out. Okay, so somebody walks in the door, you're going to ask them what the problem is, you're then going to add them to the ticketing system, you're then going to explain to them what's going on, they're going to leave. Once the computer is in the system and the customer has left, this is how we're going to work on the computers and to go from there. One of the important things that you're going to have to be figuring out is what that workflow should look like. Again, think of a business. Basically, your technology business is a more complicated version of a pizza business, right? There's a workflow for making pizzas. You do the dough, you put on the sauce, you put on the cheese, you put on the toppings, you put it in the oven, it comes out of the oven, it gets sliced, it gets put in a box, and then it goes out in delivery or whatever else, right? That is the workflow for pizzas. You should not be recreating that workflow every time you create a pizza. Like imagine if every time a pizzeria person wanted to make a pizza, every time they were adjusting the temperature on the oven, every time they were futzing with the formula for the dough, every time they were determining, well, maybe a little more cheese, maybe a little less cheese. Right? That means every single product that comes out is unique, is original, and it's going to become a mess for your business. One of the big things that you need to be figuring out is how do you create the workflow? Again, things like the customer acquisition process. How are you going to go out there and acquire customers? How are you going to onboard customers? Are you going to require a deposit? Are you going to require upfront payments? Are you going to require contracts? One of the big things that you're going to need to be thinking about with your business is how to build the workflow. And this is probably a couple of classes onto itself, just something to kind of keep in mind. Then let's talk about accounting for a second. So accounting is going to be a big thing. When you start your business, make sure you have separate bank accounts. Always have separate bank accounts, separate credit cards. The important thing is you don't necessarily have to have a real business account. Again, here in the United States, this is all US-centric. If you're in Egypt, do whatever you have to do in Egypt. But here, the big thing is that the IRS and the comptroller of your state, they want their money. They want their money. So they need to make sure that you're giving them every dime they feel that they deserve. The problem is if you're using your personal account, doing basically business transactions with your personal account, it becomes very muddy. It becomes very difficult to figure out what transactions are business transactions and what transactions are not business transactions. So if you simply get a separate account and just use that for business, it'll make it a hell of a lot easier for accounting. Now, it's important to understand, again, here in the US, most banks will just give you an additional checking account, like not a business checking account. You can just get an additional checking account. Multiple checking accounts, just one of those things that they do. So I'd argue the first thing you should do is go out and get that secondary checking account. And then with that secondary checking account, that is what all the finances for your business should run off of, so that when you go to do taxes, your life is going to be a hell of a lot easier. The same thing is true with a credit card. You can have a completely normal credit card, right? You have one credit card, and that is for your personal transactions. You have one credit card, and that's for your business transactions. Again, at the end of the year, when you're going to be doing accounting, having those separate accounts is going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. Oops, not employees. Then we get to QuickBooks. QuickBooks is an amazing tool. So I don't know, people may use FreshBooks at this point. I don't know. This is one of those tools that has gotten so much better over the years. I remember when QuickBooks was not nearly this good. I remember when QuickBooks was basically just a spreadsheet, a fancier spreadsheet. Nowadays, QuickBooks is absolutely awesome. I love QuickBooks. One of the great things with QuickBooks nowadays is it can actually import records from things like banks or other kind of financial institutions. So it can import from PayPal, it can import from your bank, it can import from other things, and then it just dumps all of that into your QuickBooks. It is so lovely, so great, especially like right now. I get all these donations. Again, I get the tips, so I get the donations, donor box and all that, and they all come in onesie twosies. They all come in $1 here, $5 here. Sucks from an accounting standpoint. One of the great things I love about QuickBooks, this is just like it auto imports. Every day it just auto imports, and then I categorize everything, and I'm done. So one of the things to do is go out and get QuickBooks, and then set up all of your auto import, and that will make your life just so much easier. Allows you to do things, again, with QuickBooks is you learn how to use the reporting mechanism. So within QuickBooks, there's a whole lot of reporting mechanisms. And so you can do things like you can track profit loss, obviously. You can track what are your most valuable categories of products. So every product that you add, whether it's a service or whether it's an actual product, that can all be separated out. So you can see what products are selling, what products are not selling, and you can make decisions. One of the big things, again, with business is you need numbers. The more numbers you have, the more metrics you have, the better it is for making decisions. Even as a business owner, even as somebody that's in the fight all the time, a lot of times things get distorted in your head. You think things are more important than they actually are. Again, what is reality and what you think reality is are two entirely different things. And having numbers keeps you within the world of reality. You can see trends. One of the big things that I love with QuickBooks, at least back in the day when I had my company, is I could track the sales rep. So what I actually used that for, we didn't have sales reps, but I did use this for advertising. So we advertised on billboards, on TV, on the radio, in magazines, Google AdWords, the whole 9 yards. And one of the valuable things as a number for me is advertising costs money, right? And we're talking like real money for these, thousands and thousands and thousands per whatever. Like a billboard cost me $10,000 a month. And so what I could see is basically as people came in and they said, how did you learn about Eli the computer guy? They would say how they learned, and then we would tag that to a sales rep. And then not only could we see like the new people, how many new people came in per sales rep, but then we could also see the lifetime value of the customer that came in, right? So let's say a billboard may cost me $10,000 a month, let's say, and maybe it only brought in a couple of clients, but each one of those clients, their lifetime value was $30,000 a piece. Right, so it only brought me in a couple of clients, but that was $60,000 overall dollars in value. That means the billboard was very good. Whereas something else, maybe a magazine ad, maybe it was a lot less. Maybe that only cost me $1,000 per month. Maybe that got me 5 customers, but the lifetime value of those customers were one-shot deals, and so I only made like $600 or $700 off of those 5 customers. So in that instance, that $10,000 billboard made me a hell of a lot more money than that $1,000 magazine ad. That's something that's very valuable that you can have in QuickBooks. Again, what I honestly found back in the day, and this is like 12, 13, I don't know, it's old information at this point, but Google AdWords just beat the hell out of everything back in the day. It was something like $85 per client acquisition. So every time I fed Google $85, I got a new customer. Nothing else competed with it. Nothing else had competed with it. Literally, if the recession hadn't happened when it did, we would have had no other advertising other than Google AdWords, simply because when you looked at the numbers, it just wiped the floor with everything else. But again, the important thing to understand with QuickBooks or anything else is in order to be able to pull out this type of information, you need to track this type of information. Let's see here, employees. So think about having employees. Yes, employees. What do you say about employees? Can we just skip this one? What have I said about Silicon Dojo? The proudest day of my life with Silicon Dojo is when I need to hire employees. The saddest day in my life for Silicon Dojo will be when I have to hire employees. Yeah, buggos. It's always funny nowadays because employees outnumber employers, right? It's kind of like when you go to school and the students vastly outnumber the professors or the teachers, and so the students are like, oh yeah, the professors are such morons, and you never hear what the professors think about the students. Yeah, it's kind of like the business world. Again, if you're a business owner, right, there's one of you for anywhere between 10 to 1,000 or plus employees. So all those, you can have 1,000 people and what their opinion is of the boss. Nobody ever actually bothers to ask the boss what they think of the employees. But anyways, employees are employees. They're a whole world. They're a whole class. You can do so many classes on employees. We'll probably do a whole series. We'll actually probably do a series on the starting a business in the future. There's so much going on with it. Anyways, if you're going to be hiring employees in the modern world, it's important to understand the difference between an employee and a contractor. So especially in the tech world, with all these smart people, these really smart people, they think they're so smart that they're gonna outfox the government, and so they're gonna hire everybody as a contractor. Why would I hire an employee, Eli? I'm a smart business person, and smart business people know you hire contractors. It's like, yeah, well, sort of. The important thing whenever you're dealing with employees or contractors, basically this is an IRS designation type thing. And so the idea is people that are employed with your company have to be treated in a certain way. There's minimum wage laws, you have to pay for workman's compensation for them, you have to hire, basically have human resources services for them. There's a lot of protection that goes into having an employee. On the other hand, if you have a contractor, right, a contractor is supposed to be contracted for a specific job, and essentially you're just hiring them to do the job, right? So imagine, again, if I have a tech company, so my sysadmin will most likely be an employee, right? So the sysadmin, I'm going to be like, okay, you're responsible for managing the servers. So whatever happens, Windows servers blow up, your responsibility. Linux servers blow up, your responsibility. Migrating to a new server, your responsibility. And again, when you're dealing with an employee, you're just kind of like, you just got to give them a block of responsibility and hope the hell they sort of do the job. When you're dealing with a contractor, it's much more like, think about if you're building out a new server room. So it's like, okay, we're going to build out a new server room. We need cable laid for that server room. And so a contractor is going to come in. They're going to lay the cable. They're going to give you a bill. You're going to pay the bill. They're going to walk the hell away, right? They're not worried about anything other than what they are specifically contracted to do. So, important thing to understand is that employees can be retasked, right? Or you can ask employees to be retasked, right? Okay, so currently you're doing the sysadmin work on this stuff. We need help, building out the server room this weekend. So you're going to need to come and rack servers this weekend, right? They're an employee. One of the big concepts here is that they can be theoretically retasked. Now, when it comes into management and human resources, how well that goes for you is an entirely different story. But that's basically the concept. You basically, like, you could have a $200,000 sysadmin, and you could tell them to take out the trash. Right? That's an employee. You can retask them. How that goes from a managerial standpoint is a different question, but legally you're able to do that, right? If you have a contractor come in to run cable, after they're done running cable, you don't then tell them to go empty the trash. That's just not how it's done. One of the big things with employees is employees can make standardization a hell of a lot easier. So again, one of the big things is, a lot of folks like to go for the contractors because they don't have to pay the same taxes, they don't have to do workman's comp, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they don't have to do. One of the things you have to be thinking about is if you're going to be building a company, you need to be building a company that you're actually creating some decent foundations for. Right? And part of that is things like standardization. Again, so part of that is things like cogization. Like, when I talk about being a sysadmin for a company, a lot of you probably have an idea of what a sysadmin looks like for a company. But remember, when you have a new company, you may not know what that sysadmin job is supposed to be. And so when you get an employee that comes in, one of their tasks, especially as a new employee, is to figure out what the hell their job actually is. to figure out what they're supposed to do, to figure out where are the boundaries of their responsibility and all that kind of thing. And so if you have employees at your company, those are the types of things that they should be doing. They should be helping to create documentation. They should be helping to create training programs. They should be helping to solidify what these jobs actually look like, so that when they leave or when they get promoted, then you have a better idea of how to slot the next person into that particular job. Contractors are basically supposed to be set for contracts. Again, a contractor comes in, they run cable, they're done running cable, they walk the hell away. You want wireless access points installed, they install the wireless access points, they walk the hell away. You want surveillance cameras, they do the surveillance cameras, they walk the hell away. Again, basically, you're paying them for a job. Just like with your house, you pay a contractor to put on a roof. In the tech business world, you pay a contractor to, install surveillance cameras or whatever else. Contractors complete tasks as they see fit. So this is a big thing, right? So as an employee, you can tell an employee how to do a task. Okay, all the Marxists in the room, sit down. Sit down, Marxists. I get it. Capitalists are bad. Whatever. You're watching this video. Anyways, as an employee, I can tell you how you're supposed to do the job. When you are administering that server, I expect you to be jumping on one leg and patting your head and typing with one hand. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but kind of, sort of, right? Like when you have an employee, you're allowed to tell them how you expect the task to be accomplished, right? What the process is, what the workflow is, all of that kind of thing. The important thing to understand with a contractor is you're not supposed to do that. Basically, you're paying for a job to be done. More or less, however the hell they do the job, that's how they do the job. You are paying for a product. Again, that's why employees are good for things like standardization, is you start to learn how the workflow should look like. You start to learn how people should interact with each other. You start to learn how to do the management and all that kind of stuff. The issue with contractors is they come in, they do their job, they go the hell away. Like whatever is in the contract, that's what they're responsible for. Anything beyond that, they get to figure out how they're going to do it. Naive contractors can create bigger issues. So this is a big problem in the modern world. Again, everybody wants to be a contractor, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Businesses want to hire contractors, they don't want to have employees. The thing is, there's a lot that goes into being a contractor. Again, insurance. Do you have general liability insurance? Do you have errors and omissions insurance? Do you have workman's compensation? You have a whole bunch of different stuff. Are you paying taxes properly? Here's the thing, at the end of the day, with your employees, with the support for your company, any screw-ups are going to affect your company. So if you're hiring a contractor, so if you have an employee and you pay the employee and you pull the taxes out and you pay workman's comp and you do all that kind of stuff, right? At the end of the year, the employee shouldn't be hit for any massive, problems with taxes. Maybe a little bit, depending on what they're doing. But basically, all the taxes have been paid, all the workman's comp has been paid, the employee, is whole, whatever, as far as the year is concerned. One of the issues you can get into with a contractor is that they may not realize that they have to put back a certain amount of taxes. They may not realize that they should have a certain insurance. They may not realize a lot of the things that go along with being a contractor, and then you, as the employer, you might run into a lot of problems. Like what happens if you have your sysadmin and you have them as a contractor position, they don't realize all the taxes and everything they're supposed to put back, and so all of a sudden it gets to the end of the year, they have this massive tax bill, all of a sudden they're going through a lot of financial bull crap. And as far as your company is concerned, again, one of the questions you have to ask yourself is how is that going to affect your company? Are they going to have to go and try to get a better job somewhere, get a different contract somewhere? Are they going to try to squeeze more money out of you in order to pay for the taxes that they didn't put the money aside for in the past? So one of the things you have to be thinking about, this whole employee versus contractor thing, is a lot of people will focus on the contractor, but realistically, honestly, if you are building a business, a real business, you really should be looking at hiring employees. Again, we can argue about the regulations, we can argue how far they go, but I think we all agree that if somebody gets hurt on the job, that they should have insurance to be able to deal with being hurt on the job, right? That makes sense. Again, most people feel that folks should have some kind of minimum wage, and especially if you're having a tech business, however much you're paying should be a hell of a lot more than what the minimum wage is, and so they should make enough money there. Everybody knows that taxes need to be paid, right? So if you actually look, again, a lot of the regulations that go around with employees, Some of them go a little bit too far, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of technology businesses would do better off actually hiring employees and figuring out how to make employees work better within their company versus what a lot of folks do is trying to hire contractors and then try to duct tape all this weird crap together. As you start hiring people, a big thing is going to be culture, right? The culture of your company is incredibly important. This is one of those buzzwords that actually matters, right? There's a lot of buzzwords out there and talk about technology and business that are just garbage. Yes, throw them in the trash. Culture is actually a very important thing. So basically what culture is generally how people think, right? Generally, what do people think is a good way of living, morally and ethically, and generally, what do they think is a bad way of living, right? And when we talk about culture, is punctuality important or not important? Does how people look, is appearance important or not important? Should people show up to a physical location? Is that important? Not important. Communication, all kinds of stuff goes into culture. And so basically what you want out of your employees, when you're hiring employees, is you want to be able to give an employee a task, right? As the least amount of information possible. Again, the important information, but you give them the important information. And then you should be able to walk away. And when you come back and they present you the results, with you giving them very little instruction, they should give you results that are either, wow, that's what I would have done, or oh my golly, that's better than what I would have done, right? Because there's all this intangible stuff that goes on with people, right? Again, whether things should be neat. Should it be fast and disorganized? Should it be slow and organized? Is it okay to have an ugly build out? All this kind of, again, no right or wrong answer. They're just ways of doing things. So if you have some people that are very finicky with how, let's say, how they run cable. When they run cable, it's all perfectly neat and wonderful. And then you have other people that just run it all willy-nilly. Now, technically, both cable runs work just the same. But one is ugly, right? It's a different way of doing things. This can become a problem as you get more and more people coming into the company, that if they don't mesh culturally with how basically the business should operate, you run into a lot of issues. So you see that right now with this whole thing, like with toxic work environments, like what people should or shouldn't say in the workplace. I think about this like with the N-word, right? So anyways, as far as the N-word is concerned, as far as I'm concerned, when I was young, I moved to a place that had African-American people. I had lived someplace most of my life that did not have African-American people. I went to a place that had African-American people. My mother looked at me. She said, look, Eli, you're going to hear this word, the N-word. I don't want you to say it. I was like, why? It's like, well, the black people find it very insulting. And I was like, okay. I don't say the N-word. Black people find it insulting. It's just, I mean, there's just no part of me that cares. Like there is nothing that I feel that I lose for not saying the N-word. That's a cultural thing for me. Again, doing things that would offend other people, especially when it doesn't bring any obvious value to you. Right? There's no interest in that, right? So when I go in, I will try to be pleasant. Again, when it comes to pronouns, I will try to use your pronouns. Now, lordy, if I get your pronouns screwed up, I definitely don't want to get beat over the head. That's not going to work. But again, with this whole pronoun thing, I don't really care. To be honest, it doesn't matter, all right? But again, that's a cultural thing. So one of the things you need to be thinking about with your company is if you have certain people that are really on this, First Amendment free speech kick to the degree that they feel it's their gosh darn given right to offend people, and then you have other people that get offended, and then you have other people that don't understand what the hell all these people are screaming about, right? That's going to become a problem in the workplace. Again, right now with activist employees, right? There are a lot of employees out there that want to push their politics into the workplace. We saw this with Coinbase. Coinbase had, it was either 2 or 3 of their network engineers extort the CEO of Coinbase in order to put out a tweet last year for their political push, right? That can become a massive issue, right? If you have a lot of politics in the workplace, all of a sudden you have people starting to beat their heads over politics, and at the end of the day, that they're not shipping product. And so one of the things that you need to be thinking about is when you're hiring people for your company, what should the culture look like? Again, Patagonia. Now, to be clear, Patagonia is a political company. Patagonia, they create, I don't know, parkas or whatever, right? They're big on the climate. They're big on politics. Again, their company is political. And when you buy a piece of Patagonia clothing, part of you buying that is the politics that go into it. Tom's Shoes, there's a shoe company. They're about poverty or whatever else, right? There are some companies out there where politics are inextricably linked to the company itself. So you want to hire people that care about the politics. Other companies just want to ship product. Just want to ship product. Again, not telling you what's right or wrong, but when you start building out your company, you need to be thinking about this as you hire people. Find people that naturally do the things, the ways that you would expect it to be done. And your first employees are going to be the most important employees that you have. So a big thing, again, as you start scaling out, as your company starts growing, is that new employees are going to start going to your other employees versus you, right? So when you have a small company, you only have a couple of employees, all the employees are going to come to you. They're going to be like, hey boss, what do I do now? Right? And so they are going to be learning, they're going to be getting mentored from you. Here's the thing, as the company starts growing, 5, 10, 20, 50 employees, those new employees are now going to start getting mentored by your first employees. The first employees, right? They're the coolest ones. Here's a problem. If you were kind of willy-nilly about hiring your first employees, and so one employee is an activist, and one employee doesn't care about any of this, and one employee is this, and one employee is that, and one employee is the other thing, as you start growing, as you start scaling up, they're going to be mentoring the new employees. And think about it, they're going to start getting their own cohorts. You have this employee over here that doesn't care about people's emotions, right? I don't care how you feel. Well, they're going to have a lot of employees coming to them, and they're going to start getting kind of like the a-hole cohort. And then over here, you're going to have an activist. And then employees are going to come to them asking them questions about how to do their job. And you're going to get an activist cohort. And then over here, you're going to get another cohort that just wants to run cable. And you're going to go over here and you have another cohort that wants that. And all of a sudden, you start to have all of these different opposing groups within your company. That's just not a good position to be in. No, it's not. So one of the big things we think about is as you grow your company is your first employees are going to be your most important. They are the one. Like, again, once you get up to 1,000 employees, fine, hire them, by the dozen. But your first couple employees, your first 10 to 20 employees, you need to take time. You need to really understand who the hell it is that you're hiring. You need to make sure that you really are about on the same page. If you hire them and they're not on the same page, you need to fire them as quickly as frickin' possible. Again, it came from a CEO, an actual quote from a CEO. We hire people too quickly and we fire them too slow. That's not what you think about CEOs saying, but it's what real CEOs actually say. Because again, most CEOs don't actually want to fire people. So anyways, culture, important thing. ADP. ADP is amazing. I love ADP. Oh, ADP. When I have employees, I will have ADP. So ADP is a payroll processing company. There are other payroll processing companies out there. I might use a different one, but I'll probably use ADP. Basically, what they do is they deal with your payroll. They deal with the taxes. They deal with all the paperwork. They make sure everybody gets their tax forms at the end of the year, the whole 9 yards. So when I got my first employee, when I got my first 2 employees, I listened to my accountant. You should have an accountant. But anyways, I listened to my accountant. My accountant said, don't pay ADP. All you need to do is this QuickBooks thing. QuickBooks had a little add-on for payroll. And so I did that for a couple of months. And then, again, I had a lot of things going on. Advertising, this, that, and the other. I forgot to put in paperwork when I was supposed to get in paperwork, and I got like a $500 fine from the IRS. I had 2 employees. I screwed up like 1 payroll's worth of taxes, and I got like a $500 fine. IRS don't mess around. They want their money. So one of the things that I found over the years is ADP just makes your life easier. One, they just do everything. You plug in everybody's hours. If they're hourly, you hit due payroll, and money gets dumped into their accounts, right? So it works very easy that way. The other nice thing nowadays is with ADP is all of these services keep adding stuff on. So back in the old days, so workman's compensation, again, this is an insurance program, don't quote me, but I think every employer in the United States has to pay into. Basically, pay about $400 or $500 per year per employee. So again, if they get hurt on the job, then there's an insurance for them, right? So when I used to do this, you actually had to go out and get workman's comp through somebody else. One of the nice things with ADP now is they're just bundling all this crap. So you go to ADP, you say, I've got these types of employees, I need workman's compensation, I need this, that, and the other thing, and ADP just deals with that crap, which is beautiful as a business owner. Anything I don't have to deal with is beautiful, right? They also, if you go with ADP, if you start to get larger, they have things like human resources services, create little human resources handbooks for you. If there is a sexual harassment thing in the company, they can try to help you out with it, the whole 9 yards. One of the great things with ADP, basically the idea with ADP is you're outsourcing all of that bureaucratic paperwork, legal crap you have to deal with for employees. So I would highly say you take a look at ADP. As I recall, it used to be, it was like $100 per payroll plus however many checks you cut, but it was well worth it. So I would definitely use ADP again. Something to think about, again, with employees and scaling. So that's one of the big things. Again, if you think about startups and think about tech companies, everybody talks about scaling. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to take over the world. Something to be thinking about when you're thinking about scaling is, remember, the faster you do anything, the more expensive and the more error prone it's going to be. Think about this as a technology professional. If somebody says, hey, in the next year we need this data center built, how much is it going to cost, whatever else, right? You can probably give them a reasonable price for building out a data center. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, we need a data center built by the end of next month, right? Again, if you need everything, compressed into a smaller time period, it's going to cost a hell of a lot more, and there's probably going to be a lot more issues because you have to do everything faster. The same thing is true with scaling. If your business grows, the faster you try to grow your business, the more expensive it's going to be and the more problems you're going to run into. Something to be thinking about as you try to increase the size is, do all of the pieces of your business scale, right? Your business is multiple pieces. Your business is your employees. The business is the vendors. The business is customers. The business is the physical facility. How large of a space do you have to shove employees into, the whole 9 yards? So if you're going to be scaling up, when you take a look at employees, how long does it take to onboard an employee? What are the percentage of employees that you onboard end up failing and washing out after 1 or 2 months? That's one of those things we think about. How many people in your current market can you hire for the job you're trying to hire for? So again, here in Asheville, I've talked with some tech companies here in Asheville, and there's nobody for some of these higher level programming languages. If you want React Native, or if you want some of these other languages, there is nobody here that you can hire. So something to think about is, if you have a company and you're going to be scaling up, you need employees in order to scale up. Can you actually get your hands on the employees for a price point that you can afford the way you think you can? Again, facilities. One of the things to be thinking about with scaling is, you lease a space, or you buy a space, and then you physically have this much space, and you're locked into this much space for however much time your contract, your lease is. So one of the things is, as you're trying to grow, one of the questions to ask yourself is, how can you grow? This is where you see, with a lot of technology companies, they'll have like 1 million office space. Some of them get stupid. Or it's because basically every time they grew, every time they scaled up, they had to rent a different office space somewhere else. And so you have some of these tech companies where they have office spaces literally spread all over a frickin' city, because every time they hired 20 more employees, they rented a new office space. So here's the first office space, and that's the next office space, and that's the next office space, and that's the next office space. So one of the things to think about with scaling is can you rent in a place, in a facility, where you could rather easily scale up? So on a small example is here. So I rented a 270 square foot office space in this building right over there, and then when I wanted to start having in-person classes, when I thought I was going to be able to do that, I talked to the property manager and said, hey, do you have any bigger spaces? And so I was literally just able to come here. Right, so this is a larger space. It costs more money, so they required a little bit more security deposit. I had to pay, like there's all this little amortization or whatever I had to pay, but basically I just walked here, right? Like it just moved. So one day I get the keys, the next day I move here, now I have a bigger office space. So this is something to be thinking about, like when you're thinking about like renting office spaces, are you renting office spaces in an office building where you could move up if you want to? If you had to hire 20 more employees and you need an extra 2,000 square feet, can you just go to the property manager and say, hey, we would like an extra 2,000 square feet, can we get it? That can make your life a hell of a lot easier. Things like vendors, right? Oh, vendors. Run into this problem. Vendors don't always scale very well. All right, so you go to your vendors, right? Whatever vendor you have, and you're used to buying however many products from those vendors. Or maybe they're contractors. You're used to however many services from them, right? And then as you grow, maybe they're not able to keep up. Again, like with cabling. Cabling contractors are worth their weight in gold. So maybe you have a good cabling contractor. So every time you have a cabling job, you hire the cabling contractor. Now, when you're a company of 5 employees and you have the workload of a company of 5 employees, every time you call the contractor, they come and they do the work. Well, then you get to 10 employees, you get to 20 employees, your workload goes up, your customer base goes up, and now all of a sudden, that wonderful contractor that you have literally can't keep up with all the work that you have, and their lifestyle, the type of lifestyle they want for their business, they don't want to be working 40 hours a day, and so all of a sudden, you no longer have the vendor requirement in order to complete all the work that needs to be accomplished. Again, if you're buying any kind of hardware, if you're buying software, any of these resources that you're going to need to buy, you are going to have to ask yourself, can the vendors that you're using actually keep up as you start scaling larger and larger? As far as scaling, do you have a plan for the scaling? Again, a lot of people like to, bigger is better, right? Most important thing is I just want to be bigger. Bigger. Big question though is do you have a plan? Do you know what the client acquisition cost looks like? Do you understand what the employee onboarding process looks like? Have you talked with your vendors? Do you understand how well they scale and all those kinds of things? These are some of the things that you need to be thinking about if you're actually going to be trying to scale and become larger. And then the final thing is, do you really want to? Again, when we talk about lifestyle, we talk about a lot of things, there's this question, do you actually want to do this thing that you say that you want to do? Do you want to do this thing that you're told that you want to do? Do you really want to take over the world? No, I don't. I don't know, I like 2,000 square feet. I like 2,000 square feet and maybe 5 employees. That would be just fine. That would just peachy for me as far as Silicon Dojo is concerned. I have zero interest in being Khan Academy. And that's one thing. Like we have this thing, we have this story, we have this narrative about you have to get bigger, you have to grow, you have to go to the moon. Maybe not. Good enough, right? I remember this. One of my the roofer that I used. He did this foam roofing type stuff, and I was talking to him. And at one point, he had 5 trucks. He had 5 trucks with 5 employees per truck, and they were going out. And they were doing all this roofing and everything all over Baltimore City. And then when I was talking to him, he was down to 2 trucks. And I asked him, I was like, "Oh, well, what happened? Is there not enough work or whatever?" And he said, "Oh no, there's more than enough work." He's just like, I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. He was like, I make a lot of money off of 2 trucks. Having 2 trucks and 10 employees going out there and roofing the hell out of Baltimore, he's like, I make a lot of money. I get to go home at the end of the day. It's a wonderful life. He said, when I had 5 trucks, there was so much more work. There was so much more stress. There was so much more employee issues. The money wasn't worth it to me. So something to think about. And that's the only thing. When you start thinking about scaling, you can scale yourself to death. You can grow to death. One of those things you don't think about. Client acquisition gets expensive when scaling. So your client acquisition cost is going to be one of the make or break things for your technology business. Client acquisition cost is how do you get that customer in? Again, back in the day when I had my thing, $85 per customer coming in through Google AdWords. Somebody typed in computer repair, enough of those people typed it in, out of all of those, somebody then actually walked through the door, that client acquisition cost was $85. The thing is the more customers you need, the faster you need them, the more it's going to jack up that client acquisition cost. So if I just have customers coming in as they do, maybe it's $85, right? If I say, oh, I need 100 more clients this month, right? That might skyrocket up to $300 or whatever, right? The faster you need to pull in customers, the more money it's generally going to cost you. That client acquisition cost goes into the whole profit and loss thing, and if client acquisition cost goes too high, all of a sudden you can have a failing business. You're going to be very, very busy. You can be working your ass off and losing money all at the same time. Hiring, retention, quality control are difficult when scaling. So when you start scaling up, one of the big problems you're going to have is basically you need to onboard your employees. You need to onboard employees and you need to inculcate that culture, right? Punctuality, whatever your culture has. As you bring people on, are you giving them enough time? Are you verifying that they're doing the things that they're supposed to do? The faster you're trying to grow, the less time you're going to have to be able to make sure everything is happening how it's supposed to, and you might run into some big problems. Vendor issues become exponentially worse when scaling. So let's say you have a good vendor. You have a good vendor, good price point, you like the sales reps, the whole 9 yards. But, you know, once in a while they screw up an order. It happens. Again, it hasn't been a big deal, right? You've been a pretty small shop. You got 5 employees or whatever. You get orders in. If an order is a little late, no big deal. Well, if you have one customer and the parts come in and are late, it might not be a big deal. If you have 20 customers waiting on those parts, not only do you have the issue of the customers might get irritated, which is its own issue, but then you might also start backing up your workflow, right? So if you have one computer that's waiting for a part, it's very easy just to put that on a shelf and wait for the part to come in and do other work. If you start to have 20 computers, because you're growing so much, you now have 20 computers that are coming in. Those are all waiting for parts. Now you may have an issue of, hey, what shelves do you put these computers on? What's the backlog for your employees? So if your employees have this normal workflow doing like computer repair, and they're used to going through, but they keep running into issues where their parts are not available that they need in order to repair equipment, all of a sudden that can start backing up and causing larger and larger issues. Do you have systems to track how the business is actually doing? Again, don't go by your gut. Sure as hell don't trust anybody, right? Numbers. Trust numbers. I don't know. That's the thing, is if you have numbers, if you have metrics, it's easy to understand what's going on. Again, is your revenue going? So when you think about profit loss statements, right? You want to see that profit going up. So a lot of people think revenue. Profit is not revenue. Revenue is gross, all the money coming in. So if you have the numbers, if you're tracking everything, is the profit going up as the revenue goes up? Or is the revenue going up and you're actually going into the red? You're actually starting to lose money because, again, things are costing you so much as you scale that it's no longer actually a good business proposition. Are things slipping? Do you have a work order system that tracks the time? You know, maybe in the beginning you were repairing, let's say you're repairing computers like we used to do. Maybe in the beginning it took 3 hours. A computer gets on the bench and 3 hours later it goes off the bench. Right? Now, as you start to scale, is that time stretching out? Is it now to 4 hours? Is it 5 hours? Is it 6 hours? Is it in a couple of days? What's going on there? Why is it now taking more time to repair computers? Right? You need numbers and you need tracking systems so that you understand what your business actually looks like. Again, as a boss, it becomes very difficult when you have employees and the employees are doing what they're doing. It becomes very difficult to really understand what everybody is doing. When you have 1 employee or 2 employees, you know, you're working around them, you understand what's going on. As you get more and more and more employees, you're just simply not around them. You simply don't know what they're doing all the time. So you don't know where there may be issues. Do you have metrics and goals so you know if you're winning or failing? Again, this is the question. Are you winning? Are you winning? Yeah, we are. We're winning. Yeah, well, prove it. What? What do you mean prove it? Prove it. Oh, you're winning? This scaling. You're scaling. You're scaling. You're growing. You're going to take over the world? Yeah. Okay, prove it. What do you mean? Just bring out your numbers. Just bring out your spreadsheets. Bring out your profit loss. Let's just sit down for 20 minutes and you prove to me that you are winning. That's what a lot of businesses get into. If you are an entrepreneur and you are scaling, and the thought of bringing out your paperwork and showing it to somebody else and explaining why you think you're winning, if that horrifies you, it probably means you're failing, right? And again, numbers are numbers. And when I talk about this, again, we talk about contracts, we talk about numbers. These are things a 9-year-old should understand. A 9-year-old may not understand Active Directory. A 9-year-old may not understand whatever. But you can put numbers in front of a 9-year-old, and you can go, these numbers are bigger than those numbers. So, something to think about there. When you're thinking about choosing the type of business that you're going to have, basically going out there, again, especially here in the United States, you do not have to create an LLC or an S Corp or whatever else if you want to do a business. Basically, you can just go out and start offering your services in general, right? So Eli, I can go out and be Eli and just offer my services, and that's generally all I need to do. I don't actually have to be a corporation. There is a doing business as. So what a doing business as is, like Eli the computer guy. I can go to the state, whatever state that you're in, and you can get a doing business as name. Right? So whether it's for a corporation or whether it's for you, you can go to the state, you can get the paperwork filed, and you can say, okay, I want people essentially to be able to write checks to Eli the computer guy, and I want to be able to deposit that into my account. So I go to the state, I get a doing business as name, and then all that is I am Eli doing business as Eli the computer guy. Doesn't give me any other benefits, doesn't give me anything else. LLC, so LLC, limited corporation, legal, oh, you ever have one of those days? Oh, it gets a little tiring to do these videos too long. Limited liability corporation. There's a lot of slides here. Man, cut me some slack. Anyways, limited liability corporation is literally just that. A limited liability corporation, in the eyes of the law, is a person. That's pretty screwed up, but it's true. So basically, what a limited liability corporation does is this becomes a legal entity that can be sued. So if it's just you and you do something stupid, you get sued. If it's you under a doing business as name and you do something stupid, you get sued. If you're an LLC and you do something stupid, the LLC gets sued. So the important thing here is your bank, if somebody sues you, they can go after however much money is in your bank account. If they sue the LLC, they can only go after however much money the LLC has. I've seen this work out in the real world in Baltimore City. I had a buddy of mine. He spent $20,000 to sue a contractor. A contractor screwed him over. He sued the contractor for $20,000, cost him $20,000 in order to sue the contractor. The judge then, basically awarded him $40,000 in compensation, and the contractor went bankrupt. And so the person who owned the contracting company didn't lose a dime. They just walked away. They walked away, literally reincorporated another LLC. The LLC that they had basically went bankrupt, and my buddy was out $40,000. He won after losing $20,000. And so that's one of the valuable things with an LLC. If you're going to have employees, right? So when it's just you, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not telling you what to do. But when it's just you, you really got to ask yourself how much legal liability you're in. So to create an LLC or an S Corp or anything, that's going to cost money. There's additional accounting that's involved, a whole bunch of different things. So one of the things is when you're going out and you're offering products or services, one question to ask yourself is how much liability do you actually think you're in? Again, if something goes boom, how much money can it go boom for? Like, so when I was originally a consultant, I was doing computer repair. If I'm fixing somebody's computer and something really horrible happens, like I'm on the hook for like $1,000 for that computer. Was it worth getting an LLC? And I had insurance and all that anyway. Wasn't really worth getting an LLC. So I wasn't worried about that. When I got worried is, wait for it, when I hired employees. And I hired employees. Right before I hired employees, I got my LLC. The reason is because I trusted what I was doing. As the person that created this company, as a person that gave his blood, sweat, and tears for the company, I knew I was not going to do anything asinine stupid to put the company in legal jeopardy. I was not so confident about that with my employees. So again, remember, if you have a company and it's not an LLC, it's not a corporation, you hire employees, they're working for you, they do something stupid. When the person sues, they're going to sue you and they're going to drain your bank account. If you have an LLC, basically when they sue the LLC, and then worst case scenario, the LLC goes bankrupt, and then you reincorporate a different LLC and move along. So that's one of the most valuable things about an LLC, and that's where I would really say, like, if you're going to start having employees, or if you're doing something where there is like real liability, that's when you think about getting an LLC. Again, talk to your lawyer about it. S Corp. S Corp is generally very valuable if you're going to have members. So the thing with an LLC, any of these corporations, is there's actually a certain number of stock that you issue, theoretically. So even an LLC, you tell how many shares of the LLC that you're going to create. And the idea then is that the owners of the stock are then the actual owners of the company. Again, when you get into the corporations and all that, you have the management for the company, and then you have the board of directors, and then you have the stockholders. So the management of the company actually works for the board of directors. The board of directors works for the stockholders. And the idea is that the stockholders are the real owners of the company, and that the board of directors make sure that the management is doing what they're supposed to do. So you think the CEO is at top. Theoretically it is, but the CEO has a board of directors over them trying to verify that they're doing the best for shareholder value. The thing is with S Corp is much better when you start looking for having a number of shareholders. So let's say you're going to create a technology company. When you're creating a technology company, maybe you're going to have multiple people come in. Hey, let's get 10 people to come together in order to create this technology company. Some people are going to give money. Some people are going to give maybe resources, maybe a building. Some people are going to actually be working in the company. And so in this way, everybody's going to have shares. They're going to have equity in that company. And then we're going to build it up. This is not a startup. This is not a startup world. This is simply a way, with the S Corp, it's easier for basically divvying up equity in a company if you're going to have numerous people that are actually going to be owners of that company. And then one of the things to be thinking about is finally nonprofit organization. Nonprofits are a business. Whether you want to do a nonprofit, that's something that you have to look into. Again, with Silicon Dojo, some people ask why Silicon Dojo is not a nonprofit. Legal stuff. There's a lot of legal stuff when it comes to nonprofits. Remember, with any of this kind of stuff, there's legal stuff that goes along with it. So if you're going to have a nonprofit, generally you have to have at least 3 board members. Per the IRS, there's a whole bunch of paperwork you have to go through. There's a whole bunch of hoops you have to jump through, the whole 9 yards. So one of the things you need to be thinking about with all this is just which one of these actually makes sense for your particular company. When you actually have the type of business, again, beyond LLC, you're doing business as, or S Corp or whatever, I divide types of businesses into basically the contractor, the shop, and what I would consider an actual business. So all of these are businesses. All of these have entrepreneurs. All of these have accountants or whatever else. But it's a way of psychologically thinking about the business that you're going to be creating and what you really want to have. So basically a contractor. So a contractor is an entrepreneur. A contractor has a business. Like I'm a contractor. Well, yeah, whatever. Business owner. Basically with a contractor is somebody that generally is an individual person that does work for other companies, right? They have their own business, but generally they're one person. They're kind of like an employee without an employer, sort of, right? So you see this with a lot of coders nowadays, where a coder, they'll contract with one company to create a module, and they'll contract with another company to create something, right? And they're working with a whole bunch of different companies, and basically they make more money by being a contractor. There's more flexibility in what they're doing. They get to decide what jobs they're going to have, the whole 9 yards. They worry about their taxes, they worry about their own 401ks, and the whole 9 yards. But it's basically, it's them. It is just them. If they fall over dead, they have a heart attack. Remember all you folks out there, heart attacks are real things. If they have a heart attack, their business disappears. Gone. No more. Because it's just them. It's literally just them. Then there's a shop scenario. Shop scenario is kind of like what I had back in the day, where you have the main boss, the boss of the shop, and then you have employees. You may have a lot of employees. The important thing to understand about a shop environment, though, is that basically the business owner is the only real decision maker for that company. From everything from advertising to leasing to everything else, it has to go through the boss, right? So you may have a janitor, you may have computer repair people, you may have coders, right? They are focused on their thing, but if the water heater blows up, the only person that's able to authorize a water heater to get repaired is the business owner. This is something that can be useful. So if you want to be able to take a vacation, that type of thing, in this type of environment, you have enough employees, they keep the business running, and then you can go and take a week vacation or 2 week vacation or a month vacation, and the business keeps doing what it's doing. The thing to understand in this particular situation, though, is all the real decision making is done by that boss, by that owner. Again, how the advertising is going to be done, what products and services are going to be sold, the whole 9 yards. So if the owner falls over from a heart attack, or if the owner has a stroke or something and needs to be taken out of the picture for a while, if you have a shop, the shop can basically be on a glide path. It's probably like this kind of glide path. It can be on a glide path where it may not be growing, not going to take over the world because nobody else can really make decisions. But the business should not die simply because the owner needs to leave for a little while, right? But if the owner is gone for too long, they're going to need a boss at some point, or it is going to die. The final real type of business is a normal business, what I would consider a business. With a business, the owner or the CEO or whatever else should be able to fall over dead, and the company should keep on trucking the fuck along. There should be multiple decision makers. There should be, basically all the processes and everything. You have the CEO, because again, with any kind of company, you need one person at top. He has to be the final person to sign off on everything, right? They need to be the one in charge. But realistically, the company can keep trucking along. So basically, a company is trucking along. You've diversified the decision-making processes to multiple different people. So even if the CEO falls over dead, basically the company, it goes through a hiccup. The board of directors or whoever else hires another CEO, and then the company keeps trucking. Again, one of the important things to understand with a real business, like when I talk about employees being cogs, everybody loses their mind. How dare you, Eli? How dare you talk about employees being cogs? Here's the thing. We're all cogs. We are all cogs. The CEO should be just as much of a cog as a secretary is. Don't tell a CEO that. You want to see a CEO have a real hissy fit. Tell the CEO they're just a replaceable cog. They will start crying. But that's a way to be thinking about like businesses, like different types of businesses. Go into advertising a little bit. So if you're going to be advertising your company, one of the first things to be thinking about is a trademark. So whether or not you get a trademark, again, trademark is kind of US centric. But basically a trademark is like Eli, the computer guy, something like that, words that you put together and you say, this is the trademark for my company. Whether or not you actually want to go through the trademark process. Trademark process costs you a couple $100, and then you own that trademark for a particular sector of business for like 10 years. One of the big things is, if nothing else, do a trademark search for whatever the hell you want to call your business and make sure nobody else has that trademark. If you start doing business, I'm not a lawyer, as far as I understand, if you start doing business under a trade name before anybody else is using it, trademarked it, after they do trademark it, you should be fine. If you use a name that has already been trademarked, then you can run into problems later when they can actually come after you for cease and desist orders, basically telling you to stop using the trademark. So if nothing else, do a trademark search and make sure whatever name you're using isn't being used by somebody else within your particular industry. Once you've done that trademark search, then you can start figuring out about what your domain name should be. So your trademark really nowadays is the domain name. Again, silicondojo.com, elithecomputerguy.com. Right, that's really what people are going to be using it for. So once you do your trademark search, then you make sure, whatever that is clear. Then you can do a domain name search, try to find something that's good for your company, and that's where you're going to be using. Then you do an email, basically all of your email addresses with your domain name. So that's how you look real legit. I mean, if it's like bob@gmail.com, that does not look like a real business person. You should have your domain name. You should have your email addresses. I would argue this is the very, very first thing that you should do. You may not even know what your business should look like yet. You may not have any idea what your business is doing. Start doing trademark searches, figuring out what your domain name is. Get your domain name, only costs you $10 a year or whatever, and then start getting some email addresses with it. That's the first thing you should do. Let's see here. When you're thinking about advertising, you do have to think about what is the point of advertising. Again, a lot of people get lost in the, wanting to be cool. But there's actually a point to advertising. The point to advertising is to bring in sales. If you are doing advertising and you're not bringing in sales, again, what the hell are you doing? And then the other thing is for brand awareness. So if you want people to know about your brand so that they may not need your product now, but they might need your product in the future, that is something to be thinking about, is the brand awareness. But you really need to be thinking about the whole point of advertising, right? Advertising salespeople, basically they sucker stupid entrepreneurs into buying things that seem cool, right? Radio ads, television ads, billboards. I bought it all. Anyways, some of these things work very well. Some of these things don't work very well. But it's not necessarily obvious. You would think certain things would work well when they don't. I found radio ads to be worthless. Radio ads were worthless. I don't care what CBS says. Lies. Radio ads were just pointless. They were just money down a frickin' toilet, right? But it seems cool. You're on the radio, right? So your friends and family are like, I heard you on the radio. And that's prestige. You're like, yeah, I have ads on the radio. But if it's not bringing in customers, if the only people that understand your brand or know your brand is your friends and family, that's not actually a value for you. Again, a billboard. Billboard is very cool, right? That makes you feel cool. I know, I've had billboards, right? Having a billboard on the main interstate, people are like, wow, that person's out a billboard. Well, here's the thing. Google AdWords, it is not going to seem cool. Nobody's going to be like, oh my golly, I saw you on Google AdWords. But the cost per acquisition is so much better than anything else out there. And so one of the problems you can run into, again, you have a finite amount of money, you have a finite amount of resources. And so if you burn your money on things that make you feel cool, but don't actually bring results in, you're going to run out of money and it's just going to be a bad time. I'd rather spend my money on something that has a good client acquisition cost and then, go to the beach to impress people versus, getting fancy advertising. So something to think about. Uniforms are an amazing thing. Uniforms have kind of gone out of fashion in the modern world, and I say bring them back. I want to bring uniform back. Oh, the uniforms are great. This is the cheapest form of advertising you're ever going to do, the best form of advertising you're ever going to do, and of course in the modern world nobody wants to do it anymore. But everybody used to laugh at my orange shirts, right? So I used to wear my orange shirts all the time, but it was great. Like even when I did YouTube, so for so many years I had my little orange shirts on YouTube, and I would literally go places, and people would be like, oh my God, you're the guy with the bald head and the orange shirt on YouTube. Yes, I am, right? One of the things about uniform is it's a standardized look that people start to associate with your company. So again, I would argue a nice bright color, nice bright obvious color, and then every time you walk by, every time somebody sees you, they click, oh, that's the web guy, that's the computer repair guy, that's the digital surveillance guy, whatever else, right? It is a form of advertising that people are wearing while they're doing their job. So when I'm walking down the street and I'm going to get a cup of coffee, I'm advertising my company. When I'm walking down the street after 12 hours of work to the bar, I'm advertising my company. Again, I used to get a lot of clients going to the bar. I spent so much money at the bar getting clients. Which unfortunately, it was like one of those things where it's like, damn, I need to stop going to the bar so much. It's like I'm getting so many clients. Like, you go to the bar, you got your shirt on, hey, what do? I do computer repair, especially 10 plus years ago. Oh my God, I need my computer repair. Well, that just paid for my night of drinking, right? Having uniforms is a very valuable thing. Beyond that, when I started to get employees, at one point I had 2 employees, so I had 2 employees with those orange uniforms on. So I had my orange uniform, they had their orange uniforms on, and I ran into one of the business neighbors, and they were like, wow, I see you're doing great. You must have like 10 employees. Why is that? It was me and 2 employees. But every time my employee walked by, they actually recognized that my employee was walking by. Because think about that. If you just have normal employees without uniforms and they walk by, people don't really notice it. If your employees have uniforms, every time they walk by, that triggers in somebody's head. They're like, oh, that's an employee, and that's an employee, and that then makes you look much more successful than you may actually be, which is a valuable thing in the business world. Again, business is a lot like finding a spouse, finding a significant other. Like people, it's kind of like trying to get a girlfriend if you're a guy. Like if you're alone and you don't have a girlfriend, trying to find a girlfriend is a pain in the butt, right? As soon as you get a girlfriend, all of a sudden girls are flirting with you and trying to get you to cheat on your girlfriend. You're like, what the hell? And it's that whole thing. Like once you have a girlfriend, it makes other girls more confident that you're actually somebody they should go after. Same thing is kind of true in the business world, right? If you seem successful, then people are more comfortable using your company. Oh, well, they have to be a decent company because they've got 10 employees. I never said that. I never said I had 10 employees. If you want to think that I have 10 employees, that's your business, right? It's good. It's good for optical illusions. When you go out there and you start advertising, one of the things that I talk about a lot is knocking on doors. So basically, I used to print up these little trifold flyers. You can use a laser printer. You do these trifold flyers, and then you go to the business district and you walk into every business and you go, hey, do you need web design? Hey, do you need computer repair? Hey, do you need whatever the business is that you're offering? And I found it to be absolutely wonderful. So back when I was doing this in Baltimore, again, 10 some odd years ago, every 3 hours of pounding the pavement, as I called it, we'll get one client. Sometimes I get a couple of clients in 3 hours, and sometimes I get no clients for 10 hours and then get a couple of clients in the last hour, right? But anyways, every 3 hours of just pounding the pavement, I got customers. This is one thing, especially in the tech world, a lot of tech professionals don't want to do because they're all shy and sheepish or whatever. Highly recommend going out there and actually talking with people. Again, especially if you're doing web design, digital surveillance systems, telephone systems, app development, any of these things like the businesses in your area might be willing to buy. Go out and start knocking on doors. You'll be surprised. You'd be surprised what benefits you get from that. One, it's very cheap advertising. One of the things to understand when you're doing business is that you only have 2 real resources. As a business person, you only have 2 actual resources. Whatever if you think you have, it's only 2. It's time and it's money. Those are the only 2 resources that you actually have. So in the beginning, when you're starting a business, you have no money and a hell of a lot of time. So doing things like knocking on doors, right? You're not doing work. You're not actually shipping product because you don't have anybody to ship product to. So this is a way that it burns up a lot of time and is dirt cheap. Costs you a couple of cents for every flyer that you hand out. And so knocking on doors is a very, very good way to be able to go out there and be able to advertise inexpensively. You can talk to owners and potential customers. So when you go in, like a big thing with starting your tech business is you're not really sure what you're offering at the end of the day. You have an idea of what you want to offer. What you're actually going to offer might be entirely different than what you thought, right? And so going out there and simply talking to people and simply seeing what they want. Hey, I do computer repair. Oh, do you fix Macs? No. Hey, I do computer repair. Oh, do you fix Macs? No. Hey, I do computer repair. Do you fix Macs? Well, we're getting into Mac repair. What problem do you have with your Mac? Right? Again, this is demographics. This is surveys. This is research. Actually go out and talk to your customer base and ask them what the hell they're willing to pay for. I know, that's shocking to talk to tech people about, but it can be very valuable. Again, you go out there, you see what people are interested in, you see what people are not interested in. You can change your pitch on the fly. So you walk into the first business and you're like, we offer maintenance contracts. They're like, oh, I don't want to pay for maintenance contracts. Huh. You walk into the next business, hey, we offer time and material billing. Oh, we like time and material billing. Right, so when you're actually going out there and you're talking with people, you can on the fly change what you're selling and how you're selling it. And then you get to understand your environment better. When you go out there and you're talking with people, you're walking around your community, you're walking around your city, you get a better understanding of what the business environment looks like, and you might be able to learn some things that'll be valuable for you in the future. As far as business networking is concerned, business networking is a difficult one. Business networking is incredibly valuable if done well, and completely worthless if not done well. I've seen a lot of people, like they go to meetups, they're kind of like addicted to meetups, where they'll be like startup founders or whatever, and then they go to all the meetups. There'll be like 4 meetups per week. And what's always funny is I just wonder what the hell they're doing. If you're at all these meetups all the time, what are you actually getting out of these meetups? And you're not shipping product. If you're spending 4 or 5 hours at a meetup, you're not shipping product during 4 or 5 hours. You're not doing research during 4 or 5 hours. You're not doing all the other things required for business during 4 or 5 hours. So what are you actually doing at the meetup? So one of the big things, again, you have to be thinking about business networking. If you're going to be going out there, is ask yourself, what is a win and what is a loss? What is actually valuable for you? So I think about that here in Asheville. When I came to Asheville, they have a normal business networking group, and then they have a lot of tech meetups. So I went to the normal business networking group a few times. And every time I went there, people just stabbed me with business cards. They didn't really care what the hell you do, because all they're worried about is selling whatever they have. And then it was basically worthless. I stopped going to them because who the hell cares? It's a whole bunch of salespeople trying to sell to other salespeople. It's not very interesting. On the other hand, I go to the tech meetups here, and it's been very valuable for me. I've gotten a sponsor. We have a new sponsor that should be starting this week. So I've actually got financial. I've got a sponsor out of it. There's a nonprofit board. I'm going to become a member of a nonprofit board here. That's going to be very valuable, again, for business networking going into the future. I've made friends, like people that I actually go out and have beer with, so that's very valuable. I've learned a lot about the technology landscape. I've learned a lot about the businesses and how things work here. It's actually been very useful. So again, the tech meetups in Asheville have been awesome. The business networking meetups in Asheville were worthless. But one of the things you have to be thinking about when you go out to this networking is, what are you actually trying to accomplish? Remember, you're no longer an employee, right? Employees punch time cards. An employee comes in, punches a time card, they leave, they punch a time card, they get paid for that amount of time. Whether they work their asses off, whether they do nothing, they get paid for that amount of time. They get paid for showing up. You are an entrepreneur. You are a business owner. You do not get paid for showing up. You get paid for shipping product. If you work your ass off and you ship no product, you're gonna starve. That's how it works, right? So again, like with the business networking meetups and meetups or anything like that, you have to be thinking about, what are you actually getting out of this? Is it worthwhile? Go to happy hours where business people hang out. This is the greatest advice I can ever give you, and probably most of you will never do it. I made so much money on happy. I made so much money getting drunk. Because think about it, right? If you're in the technology business, you're doing website, you're doing app development, whatever the hell it is that you're doing, right? Business owners need whatever you're providing. Business owners like to drink beer. It's just one of those weird things. I know, shocking. Business owners like to drink beer. Some of them like to drink way too much beer, but anyways. And so one of the things to be thinking about, again, if you go out and you figure out where the business owners, where the entrepreneurs and all that kind of stuff hang out, and then you go out and you start drinking beer around those people, and then you say hi, say, hey, what's going on? Do you see the sports team? Have a conversation. Well, we'll have to flesh out. We'll have to have a bigger class on this. We have a conversation, create a relationship, or whatever else. And then what you might find out is the person that you're talking to has a company with 100 employees, and they've really been looking for blah, blah, blah. And hey, guess what? You do blah, blah, blah. Hey, maybe we should have a talk and see if I can help that's what you say. I wonder if I can help your company out. Right? Happy hours. Made so much money out of happy hours. Talk to business owners you run into, contractors, coffee shop owners, etc. Again, I'm one of those people that talks to everybody, like everybody that walks by. I just talk to them. I wonder what their life is like. And one of the valuable things there is you learn what the business environment is like. You go to the coffee shop. You talk to the coffee shop people. Ask what the business world is like. You talk to the people that are building a house. We have a person building a house near us. Talk to them. Like around here, again, we talk about business. There's a new house being built up the street from where we are, and just to understand what the business environment actually looks like. So I was sitting there, I was talking to the contractor building the house, and I asked him, I was like, just out of curiosity, how long is it going to take for this house to get built? And he said, well, normally it'll take 3 months, but because the market here is so hot and labor is in such demand, this will probably take at least 6 months to build. All right, that's a data point to have in your head. Something to be thinking of. Again, whether it's valuable for your business or not, who knows? But when you go out there and you start talking with people and you start figuring out, okay, where are the pain points in our community? Where are the pain points for these businesses? Are there products or services that I can provide to alleviate those pain points and get paid for doing it? And make relationships. Make relationships. Again, we'll probably have a whole class on making relationships. Trying to tell computer geeks to make relationships is just difficult. It's like a whole bunch of 9-year-old boys all looking at their feet at the dance. And like, God damn it, go talk to them. Business owners are people too, I swear. But relationships are very valuable things. Again, that's one of the things you'll hear with business networking is like who you know, oh, I know this person, oh, I was out drinking with this person, oh, I was doing golf with this person, oh, I was out on a boat with this person. That's one of the things you'll notice with business people is because the relationship is important. At a certain point, we all know what we do, and then it's just binding that relationship together. And remember, in business is not just about selling. Again, a lot of people get tunnel vision on the idea of what business is. Business is not just selling, right? You've got office space to rent. You got getting insurance. You have to find employees. There is so much required in order to create a successful business. So you go out there, you talk with people, you get relationships, and then you can call them on the phone. Hey, Just out of curiosity, who do you use for your payroll processing? Hey, just out of curiosity, yeah, we're looking to get a larger space. Do you know anybody that has a larger commercial space around here? Hey, I see you got this office space in this particular area. I was thinking about moving our business to that particular area. Hey, can I offer you a beer and just kind of pick your brain about what you like and what you dislike about that particular area? Again, it's conversations. Just, hey, let's grab a beer. Hey, let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's BS, shoot the crap. Let me ask you a couple of questions. It can be very, very valuable. Social media advertising. One of the big things with social media advertising is just to ask yourself, are you actually doing social media advertising, or are you just wasting a crap ton of time? I was talking to somebody about this years ago, like with Twitter advertising, and I was like, yeah, social media advertising is good. And they were like, yeah, but how do you keep from being on Twitter for 8 hours a day? And it was like, well, you focus on actually doing advertising. If you're going to do Twitter advertising, you should spend about 15 minutes a day doing Twitter advertising. Social media advertising. All of your social media advertising should take an hour a day. Max. If you're spending more than an hour a day doing social media advertising, you're no longer doing social media advertising. You're looking at cat photos. So one of the things to do is to give yourself a timer, give yourself goals, give yourself whatever, go in, do social media advertising, and then log out of all your social media accounts, and then go do the work that needs to get done. Something to be thinking about is if you're going to be dealing with influencers, so people like me, are you actually going to go out there and deal with influencers as far as your social media advertising? One of the big questions you have to ask yourself is are we actually valuable? I don't know. Influencers are a weird game. Influencers are weird. Like, there's this idea that you go out and you talk with and you get a social media influencer to be able to hawk your whatever the hell is that you're going to be selling, that it's going to make you amazingly successful. It's not really how it works in the social media world. Like, actually having social media influencers sell or try to sell whatever product it is that you have to offer, it can be a bit of a hit or miss thing. And so you really need to be thinking about what are you actually using the influencer for? And again, what metrics and everything are you dealing with the influencer? The other thing to be thinking about is the demographics of the influencer. So like for me, I actually have a lot of Indian viewers. At one point, I had 50% of my viewers were out of India. And so a thing to be thinking about, like if you're a company and you're selling to an American audience, just because I've got 1 million subscribers or whatever else, doesn't necessarily mean I'm talking to the people that you think I'm talking to. And so you need to be able to actually track all the clicks that come through, all the sales that come through, and verify that the influencer is actually doing what you think that they're doing, and that you're not just basically wasting money on a modern day radio ad, right? If you can pay an influencer in the modern world, that's like getting a radio ad 10 years ago, but it may be just as worthless as getting a radio ad 10 years ago. The other thing that I would say is influencers are generally a better bet than trying to create your own social media accounts and become successful that way. I've seen a lot of tech companies try to do this where they don't want to pay Network Chuck, they don't want to pay Barnacules, anybody like that. They're going to create their own social media accounts and become their own influencers. Again, this is a job. Social media is a job. Like, for the love of God. Like, sometimes I just get frustrated. I'm just like, this is a job. This really takes time. It takes money. It takes energy. It takes a lot of stuff to, right? But a lot of business people, for some reason, they know how complicated their business is, but they think other things are just easy. And so they go off and try to create their own social media campaigns or whatever else. And again, you've kind of got to be careful with that kind of thing. If you are going to be going into the social media world, you should be creating your business accounts. Again, not that they're going to go viral, not that they're going to become the next PewDiePie or anything, but you should go to Twitter, you should go to YouTube, you should go to all these places. Just put a placeholder in, if nothing else, for your social media accounts so that you have those names on these different social media services. And if you want to use them in the future, then you'll be able to use them in the future. But think about what you're doing on these business accounts. The other thing to be careful about, again, when we talk about culture, social media is a form of communication. I know that's technical. Like, oh, really? Oh my God! Social media is communication. Never would have thought that. Here's the thing. One of the problems you get into, again, with that whole cultural thing, is sometimes your employees can communicate crap you don't want to be said. Again, we talk about culture, we talk about politics, we talk about activism. And there's a lot of different politics right now. There's a lot of activism. I'm not talking about one side or the other. Right? One of the issues you have to be thinking about with your social media platforms is who is able to post on the social media platforms and how do you vet what they post on the social media platforms. You can get into a lot of stupid stuff. Again, what a 22-year-old thinks is okay to post on social media most likely will make a CEO lose their damn minds. So something to be careful about there. You do have old advertising. So old advertising is newspapers, billboards, radio. You know, it exists. I had those back in the day. Back in the day when I had an 8-track player, you have to be careful with old advertising. It's not that old advertising is necessarily bad. Again, there's no real good or bad in business. What I find with these is the price points are just whack. If they adjusted their price point down by about 70%, they would do a lot better. The issue, again, if you go with newspapers or billboards or radio, their price point, basically they're still dealing with the old price points from like 15 years ago when they were probably worth whatever it was they were. But they're in the modern world where they're competing with AdWords and that type of thing. And one of the big issues that I see with advertising is that the price point is just whack. So if you are going to use old advertising, one of the big things just to consider is the price point, right? If somebody comes into you with a good value proposition, then it might make sense. Where if they come in high, probably AdWords makes more sense for you. You need to track results. You need numbers to know how your business is operating. People lie. Numbers only fib a little. It is important to understand. Numbers don't lie. They do fib. They do fib. You can push numbers one way or the other. But again, the important thing with QuickBooks, the important thing with sales reps, the important thing with all these metrics is that you need to be able to track results, and then you need to figure out what is most effective for your business. If you're not tracking results, basically, I think that's the important thing with numbers. Even if you don't know how to use the numbers, if you're tracking the numbers, then you have the numbers so that in the future, you can figure out what you're going to do with them. One of the big problems with a lot of companies is they don't track the numbers, and then by the time they figure out that they need to look at the numbers, they haven't been tracking the numbers for months and months and months and months, and so then they have to start from day one, right? So again, with QuickBooks, with work order systems, with all kinds of the tracking systems they have, right? Even if I'm not using the information, but all of that data, all of the historical records are building up. By the time I realize what I need to pull out of that information, I can go back and I may have months or I may have a year of historical records so I can see how things are doing. If you're not tracking that information from the get-go, then when you decide that the numbers are important, that's the point when you're going to start tracking, and then you're going to have to wait to actually start getting enough numbers for any of this stuff to make sense. Again, when you're taking a look at numbers, a day-by-day numbers don't really matter that much. Even week-by-week numbers may not matter that much. Really, what you're looking at is months. How are individual months? Where did we spend money for ads for individual months? Where did we spend money for resources for individual months? Well, what was the up? What was the down for the individual months, and then start to look at that. Because any one day, right, if you have a storm, right, if you have a snowstorm, your sales are going to tank for that day. That has nothing to do with your ad campaign, right? That has nothing to do with vendors. That you just had a snowstorm. So if you have this more historical record over months and months or a year, it's much easier to suss out information that'll be valuable for you. We start going into creating your business, licensing and taxes. So if you're going to be a technology business, you most likely don't need much in licensing. A nice thing for me, I've never needed much in licensing, except for low voltage cable. Again, and you might get some weird stuff, right? So research what your state needs. Research what your state or your county needs. You can most likely go onto Google and you can see what licenses you may or may not need. Most things in the tech world, again, the IT tech world, you don't need to be licensed for. Most. But you do get some weird things, like running a low voltage cable. Who would have known? Who knew that? Apparently in the Baltimore area, you're supposed to have an electrician sign off if you're doing low voltage cable. So low voltage cable is 12 volt cable or less. So surveillance cameras, telephone systems, those kinds of things, they use low voltage cable. Almost impossible to start a fire or anything with, so you don't really think about them being dangerous. Apparently, in some jurisdictions, you do need an electrician to actually sign off on the low voltage cable installation. So you just need to see what that is for your particular area. Sales tax is different to state. Go to the comptroller's website and see what you need to do. So in the US, we have sales tax. Sometimes products are taxed, sometimes services are taxed, sometimes different services are taxed. So this service will be taxed and that service won't be taxed. This product will be taxed and that product won't be taxed. So basically you go and you figure out what the hell your state requires, and then basically you fill out a form. They'll give you like a tax ID number, and then generally, like in Maryland, every quarter, initially you would submit your sales tax, and then once you start making enough money, it'll be every monthly you submit your sales tax, and it's a whole process. For the sales tax, generally in QuickBooks, they give you, basically your state gives you all the rules, and then in QuickBooks you plug in whatever the sales tax rate is per product or service, and then QuickBooks deals with everything for you. At the end of the month, you run a sales tax report in QuickBooks. It tells you how much you owe, and you write a check and send that off to the comptroller. Talk to your accountant about things like depreciation and fixed asset taxes. So again, in the United States, we have all kinds of weird-ass taxes. My problem is not paying the taxes. It's just we have such asinine systems for taxes. It gets very difficult sometimes. So one thing is you should talk to your accountant and figure out what kind of taxes that you're actually responsible for. If you buy a computer for your business, do you get to deduct that? Do you deduct that but then pay a tax because you own that thing? A whole bunch of stuff that goes in there. Ask an accountant. Then we go to insurance. So insurance is a big thing. A lot of people overlook. Again, there's workman's comp insurance. If you have employees, you have to have workman's comp insurance. Don't F around with workman's comp insurance. That is bad for everybody. But beyond that, if you're just starting your business, there's different insurances to think about. The main insurance everybody thinks about is general liability insurance. So let's say you're repairing computers, you pick up a computer, you're walking with a computer, you trip, you drop the computer, $2,000 explodes. General liability insurance pays for that. So in Baltimore City, I had my store was burglarized, 5 laptops were stolen. I called my insurance company. Basically, they said, go out, buy brand new laptops, and send us a receipt. This is one thing somebody, I don't know who, frenemy of the show, Lewis. So Lewis, up in New York, he is very anti-insurance. Might be the price point of the insurance he's paying for. Anyways, he's very anti-insurance, and he hates insurance. What I'll say is I actually haven't had many problems with insurance. I've had to use my insurance in the past. I've had to pay a chunk of, I've had issues that were worth a chunk of money, and the insurance company just wrote the checks. Again, like I say, my building was burglarized. As far as the computers that were stolen was concerned, I was literally told by the representative, go to Best Buy, buy an equivalent computer of what was stolen, give us the receipt, and we'll give you the cash within a week. And it was. Again, there were other breaks and all that kind of stuff because of the burglary. All the insurance was paid for. But that's basically what you get with general liability. General liability is theft. General liability is breakage. General liability, like if you get an office space, if the office space catches on fire, all of those different types of things. Then one of the insurances that a lot of people don't think about in the tech world that you really should get is something called errors and omissions insurance. I've never actually had to use my errors and omissions insurance, but this is one of those things that just lets you sleep well at night, especially if you're in the tech world, especially if you got employees. Oh, employees. What errors and omissions insurance is did you not do something that you should have done? Right? So if you drop a computer, it explodes. That's general liability. What happens if a client hires you to set up a backup system, and then your employee screws up the configurations on that backup system? The backup system fails, nothing ever gets backed up, and then the computer crashes at some point, and the data is gone. Customer paid for a backup system, you sold them a backup system, but you fucked up. That's not a general liability thing, that's an error and omission, right? Again, if you forget to tell somebody something that they need, that type of thing. Errors and omissions might be, let's say, about the wrong license, right? So again, with Microsoft, there's a gazillion different frickin' licenses out there. One of the big problems with license for like volume licenses, right? So if you're buying licenses for a company, if you're a company of 10 employees, you buy this license. If you're a company of 1,000 employees, you buy this license. If you're a company of 1,000,000 employees, you buy this license, right? They have different price points based on the size of the company. What if you accidentally bought incorrect licenses for your customer? You install them, they then get into a problem with it, like a compliance audit in the future. That's the kind of thing that errors and omissions insurance should be able to cover. Again, it's one of those things that's a little bit more flaky, but in the tech world, it's a tech world. We're a world of flaky kind of crap. And then there's specialized insurance you might want to take a look at nowadays. They have hacking insurance, so if your system gets hacked, if you're getting a lot of people's personal identifiable information. So let's say you're PCI compliant, you're HIPAA compliant. Let's say you're doing a technology company and you're dealing with medical records, and so you're supposed to be HIPAA compliant. You thought you were HIPAA compliant, then a hacker got in and grabbed all the information. Having some kind of hacking insurance might be valuable for you. And then things like a data loss insurance. Again, if all your data goes away, same type of thing. Again, my experience with insurance has really not been too bad. Again, I know some people out there are like, insurance it's a rip-off game, it's horrible. Like, yeah. I don't know, hasn't been too bad. My opinion. Maybe it's who you buy your insurance from. Do you remember when you pay for insurance, that insurance is like cars, insurance is like hotel rooms, insurance is like restaurants. Like, you you go to Taco Bell, you're gonna get diarrhea. It's what you bought. Anyways. Choosing a fee structure, so basically how are you going to be charging people? Again, how you charge people is all across the board. Are you going to do a monthly maintenance plan? Are you going to do what's called time and material billing, basically where you charge for hourly rate plus material cost? How are you going to be charging people? You're going to have to figure that one out. See what other vendors charge. Again, in the business world, stealing what other people do can be a great way to go. If all of your competitors are doing something one way, there's probably a reason that they're doing it that way. Steal that idea. See what customers are willing to pay. Again, if you're going out there and you're knocking on doors and you're talking with people and they ask you, well, how much are you? And you tell them. If they say yes, I want to buy it, then you might be, if it's very, very easy, you might be a little bit too cheap. If they don't want to buy it, then maybe you're too expensive. So see what the customers are actually willing to pay for in your area. Hourly rates, one of the big things though with the fee structure is hourly rates are about more than hours at site. So I argue that if we're going to do time and material billing, you need to charge at least $100 an hour. And oh my golly, people talk about what a greedy bastard I am. Eli, I liked you. I thought you were a good person until you talked about charging people $100 an hour. That's ridiculous. Yeah, and again, the problem is in the modern world, people don't know how to do math. You're charging for the hour on site. Right? If you're doing time and material billing, you're charging for the hour on site, $100. There's the commute to get to site. There's the preparation work to be ready to get to site. There's the dealing with whatever you have to deal with once you get back from the site. There's making sure you get paid enough so that you can do your QuickBooks. Because when you're doing nobody's paying you to do QuickBooks. When you're doing your QuickBooks, when you're doing your advertising, when you're setting things up, when you're experimenting, when you're playing, when you're doing a whole bunch of different stuff, right? All of that time, you're not actually getting paid for. So especially as a new business person, again, if you go out there as a contractor, you should plan basically to be billing for 10 hours a week. That's it. What? Well, think about it. You've got to go out and advertise. You've got to schmooze. You've got to do the commute times. You've got to do this. You got to do that. You got the other thing. You actually got to get the customers. You got to get the clients. If you start out and you're billing out 10 hours a week, you're honestly doing pretty damn good. But that's the thing. You're not billing out at 40 hours a week. So $100 an hour, 10 hours a week is $1,000 a week. That's only $50,000 a year, and you're a business owner, right? And this is one of those things that you really have to think about, is what is the entire time? What are all of the resources that go in for you to be able to deliver that 1 hour or that 2 hours of service? Back when I had my company, when we went out for 1 hour jobs, I actually didn't look at 1 hour jobs as a profit point. Basically, when I would go out and do a 1 hour job, especially for a new client, I saw that as a way to upsell. I wasn't there to make my $100 an hour. I was there to upsell 50 more hours, right? Hey, have you thought about a telephone system? Hey, we can put a digital surveillance system. Hey, let me do something that's actually going to bring me money that I care about, right? And so this is something that you really need to be thinking about, the hourly rates. Again, a lot of young people out there, they're talking about $25 an hour. I can do it for $25 an hour. You go, girl. You have fun with that, right? But that price point has to be high enough for your business to actually make sense. When to become a real business? So this is a big one. Again, when we talk about taxes, when we talk about insurance, we talk about all of those kinds of things. Many new entrepreneurs are so focused on being real that they forget to ship product. Remember, there's only so many hours in the day. You've only got so much money. If you are hyper-focused on doing business cards, if you're hyper-focused on doing a website, if you're hyper-focused on doing all the cool, fun stuff, and you're not actually shipping any damn product, you don't actually have a business. Here's a funny part. So many people get so focused on becoming a real entrepreneur, they never get around to shipping anything. But I've got a fancy business card. So one of the things you have to be thinking about is that you need to ship product. Becoming real, the reality of the business should be developing, as the business goes. So one of the things, again, we talk about taxes and we talk about insurance, all of that. One big things that I argue is basically when you start making money that is like a part-time job, that's when you should start solidifying all those things, right? If you're making $50 a month, who the hell cares? The IRS doesn't care over $50 a month. You're making $500, you're making $1,000 a month. That's when you need to start making sure your taxes and all that kind of stuff are in shape. Basically, I am not a lawyer, but when your income makes a difference in your life, you need to become real. Again, because if you're going out there and you're fixing one computer a week, you're going out there, you're building one website a month, and you're not charging through the nose to it, is it really worth the time to go through all the paperwork? Don't overthink it. Business is really simple. It is that easy. Again, business. Buy low, sell high. Done! That is your MBA. The Eli, the Computer Guy MBA. Buy low, sell high. That's really all business is about. A lot of people want to make business to seem complicated because then they feel that there's a lot more to it. But the reality is business is relatively easy. Just go out there, you advertise, you schmooze, you figure out how to provide the product or service, you figure out a price point that actually brings you a good profit. Don't overthink it the way a lot of folks do. Keep it simple, stupid. If you chase every dollar, it'll make you poor. A lot of business people out there, what they do, especially new business people, is they try to chase everything. I'm going to make money off of websites, and I'm going to make money off of building desks, and I'm going to make money off of this, and I'm going to make money off of this, and I'm going to make money off of this, and I'm going to make money off of this. One of the big things you have to understand with business is every single product that you're offering, every single service that you're offering has a different workflow. It has a different type of customer. When we had web design customers would bring in the full payment for a website the moment they signed the contract, and then they would never give us the content. Sucked. Whereas other people, they would allow us to do all the work, and then it was a pain in the ass chasing after the money. Every type of customer, every type of product requires something different. So the more different things that you're doing, the more difficult it's going to be for your business to keep up. Beware of macro forces, and then there is COVID, right? Macro forces are the larger forces going on in the world. So right now, COVID is a huge thing going on in the world. Previously, under the previous presidential administration, we had things like the trade war, right? One thing to understand is that these larger forces will affect you and will affect your business. There's this idea as an entrepreneur, right? Army of one. It's all about me. I built this. That's like, yeah, calm down. To a degree, don't get me wrong, right? But there's a lot of things, other things going on in the world. Again, when I think about being a consultant, one of the things that allowed me to become a consultant is I started in the era of XP Service Pack 1. Everybody had broadband, everybody had XP Service Pack 1. You could literally drop a registry edit just by somebody going to a website. People had money, people knew computers were valuable, I made a lot of money, right? That's not my brilliance. That's the macro events. Again, I started YouTube in 2009. I started at the right time. Again, when I started, I was a little too in front of the curve. And then for a long time, I did very well simply because I was one of the only real high-level technology video people on YouTube, right? Again, that's a macro thing going on right now. Again, as I'm starting Silicon Dojo, I try to start Silicon Dojo. I think things are going well. And then, we're having COVID shutdowns and the rest of it again. These things aren't about me. This isn't what I did. This is the world going on around me. And so you need to think about how that's affecting you. And then the final thing, because the battery on my computer is about to run out. I forgot to plug in my Mac Pro. So if this disappears, just so you know what's going on. Be careful of listening to smart people. So again, a lot of new entrepreneurs, they really want to go out there and they want to listen to the smart people. Again, they want to read the the biography of Steve Jobs. They want to go out there and listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, and they want to just suck in business. I don't know. I don't know. Smart people don't necessarily give you the best advice. Again, I saw this with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, when that biography of Steve Jobs came out and it was around the startup world, and then all these founders decided that they were going to be assholes because Steve Jobs was an asshole. And it's like Jackass is a bit more complicated than that. But you get that, right? Oh, I learned about what is Elon Musk doing. Just because Elon Musk is doing it doesn't mean it's necessarily valuable for you. Again, Gary Vaynerchuk has good advice, but one of the big questions I ask is, are you in the proper demographic? One of the big issues I see with Gary Vaynerchuk, if you go out there and watch his videos, is basically he's talking about Fortune 500 companies, but he's talking to a startup audience. Right? So one of the big things he says is, over the last videos I watched of his, I would be out there and every day I'd be on social media. Like Musical.ly was his big thing. I'd be figuring out how to make Musical.ly, work for my company. And it's like, well, look, if you got 2 employees, if you've got, 1 or 2 employees, and you're trying to figure out what product to sell, and you're trying to get customers, and you're trying to do everything else involved, how the hell do you have time to do a Musical.ly? Again, if you're with Nike, and you're 1 employee of their social marketing department, then by all means spend 8 hours a day on Musical.ly. If you're a startup founder and it's you and your dog, and that's all you got in your company, probably Musical.ly or TikTok or whatever it is now is not the way to be spending all of your time. But it seems cool. It seems sexy. When you watch Gary Vaynerchuk, if you don't have experience, a lot of the things that he says, oh, wow. If you have experience, you're like, wow, that's not shipping product. You need to be shipping product. Good advice should be good on the face of it. Again, a lot of folks out there, what they try to do is they try to say how cool they are. The reason you need to listen to me is how cool I am. Look, a moron should be able to give you good advice. I should be able to find the stupidest person possible in the world. I should be able to write down good advice, and they should be able to come up to you and stutter through that good advice. Be like, wow, that's good advice. It doesn't matter who's telling. Advice is its own thing. Right? Wisdom is its own thing. Wisdom from the mouths of morons is still wisdom. The problem is you get a lot of stupid crap out of the mouths of morons, but they say, but look at who I am, and then you listen to them because you're focused on who they are. You're not focused on the words. Again, as I've said many times, again, most of this stuff a 9-year-old should be able to comprehend. If a 9-year-old can't comprehend why it's smart, here's an interesting question there. One of the big things is, are you their product? When you go out there and you start talking with smart people, again, there's business development people. There's all kinds of smart people out there that are going to try to rob you blind. One of the questions you got to ask yourself, are you the product? Are you the product? Again, when you're listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, is his product the video? Is his product the video? Is his product the book? Or are you his product? Right? When he goes to Nike, when he goes to Coca-Cola, when he goes to these big Fortune 500 companies in order to shill his social networking media, advertising company, doesn't it look pretty good when he's got however many gazillion followers? I sold this many books. I've got this many followers. That's why you need to pay me a few $1 million in ads. So, is his book the product? Is his video the product? Or is that what he does in order to get the product, which is actually you? And that's where you've got to be careful when you're listening to these quote-unquote smart people. And as always, distrust, verify, and stay suspicious. If you're listening to any of these quote-unquote smart people, again, listen to what they are saying. Does what they're saying make sense? Does the math work out on what they're saying? And if it doesn't, walk the hell away. Because so many people in this world, again, what they want you to focus on, they want you to focus on the bling. They want you to focus on their fancy car. They want you to focus on their clothes. They want you to focus on what they say that they've done. One of the most disappointing things that I found over the years is so many of these people that seem cool in the beginning are kind of garbage, to be honest with you. Again, how many multi-millionaires are simply multi-millionaires simply because they happen to be employee number 10 at a company that went public? They were not necessarily the smartest employee. They weren't necessarily somebody that did something amazing. A company was scaling up. They happened to get hired as employee number 10. They got equity because they were willing to take equity other than pay. And now it's 10 years later, and they're being the sages of the room. When in reality, right? Like you don't go to advice, you don't go to business advice for somebody who won the lottery, right? Again, think about this. If you had I don't know, a carpenter that was doing carpentry work, and then one day they won the lottery, got $50 million. Would you go to them for their sage advice on business? I mean, you might go to them for how to do some woodworking, but you wouldn't be asking them how to build out a tech company, would you? A lot of these people that you see running around, they made a lot of money. And again, I'm not snarking on them for making the money. They made the money. They played the game. They made the money. Doesn't mean you necessarily need to be listening to the information that they're giving. So be very, 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 very careful with that. And with that, I came in right before my battery failed. My battery is literally about to fail. So anyways, I think that was a pretty long video there, but that's kind of an introduction to basically how to start a technology business. Most likely I'm going to spread this out and actually into a full curriculum. Again, now that the world changed, now that the macro forces have changed, I'm going to start doing these full curriculums. So maybe after the cybersecurity, I'll do a tech business full curriculum so people really understand what's going on. Again, I did run through a lot of stuff here. It's not that business is complicated. It's just probably needs more than 2.5 hours or however long this video is. But again, like just go out there. I mean, talk to people, create relationships, figure out what people need, figure out what people are willing to pay for, move slowly, go slowly, don't do things for the optics. Again, don't quit your job because real technology, business people quit their jobs. Don't buy radio ads or whatever the cool kids are buying nowadays because real business people do it. Have your numbers, have your metrics, go step by step. I think about this when I was hiking the Himalayas. So years and years ago, I was hiking the Himalayas in Nepal, something called the Annapurna Circuit. And you go, and you see these Sherpas that would go by. Sherpas with like these big boxes of chickens or big boxes of Coca-Cola or whatever. They'd be going up these mountains. And they would just go up and be like 1 foot in front of the other. When you saw them, it looked like they were going so slow. Right? I'm an American. I do big feet. I do big steps. But they would just go so slow. It was like, it's hard to see if you can, but just like, and what they would do is like every time the Sherpas would walk by, like all of them, they just walk by and go slowly. And you're like, yeah, slowly. I'm American, I don't go slow. Anyways, but the thing is, the oxygen up there was so thin. As soon as you got out of breath, it would take half an hour to regain your breath. So when you put out these long legs, right? There was a good chance at some point you were just going to need a little bit more air than you were able to breathe in. All of a sudden you're going to be gasping for air, and then it would take time to reacclimate or whatever else. And these Sherpas, they just go by slowly, and they would just like tiny step by tiny step. Oh my God, they're like marathon runners. They just go by you, be like slowly, like, yeah, and then like within an hour, be way off in the distance. You're just like, slowly. That's what I kind of think about with business. Just slowly, slowly. One step in front of the other. Know where your steps are. Put one step in front of the other. Don't overreach. Don't lose your breath. At the end of the day, you should do pretty well. So anyways, that was a very, very long class. A lot longer class than I was expecting it to be. So anywho, I've got to go. I've got to go home and be with my wife. I've got to go home and be with my wife and cuddle my chihuahua and play some video games, because life isn't just about IP addresses and that type of thing. I hope you enjoyed this class. I did enjoy teaching it. Again, if you do want to support what I'm doing over here at Silicon Dojo, authorityless, gatekeeperless, free to the end user, technology education that is trying to empower you folks. Think about dropping a couple of dollars down below. If everybody drops in a couple of dollars, we can actually get some money to do some things that are pretty impressive. And so with that, again, I enjoy teaching this class, and I hope to see you at the next one.